Good afternoon, everyone. I, Pranav Kale, am so pleased to be with you this afternoon and to have the chance to introduce our today's guest speaker, Margaret Alvaji. She was a governor of Rajasthan, Goa, and Gujarat, and First Lady Governor of Uttarakhand. She is a senior figure in Indian National Congress and served as a Joint Secretary of Indian All India Congress Committee. She is a lawyer by profession and sorry, and is associated with the NGO Karuna as a president. She was awarded by Nelson Mandela Award for the minority empowerment for her contribution in the field of advocacy for minority causes. Also, she awarded with the Mercy Ravi Award for outstanding social and political contribution by a woman. We welcome you, ma'am. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Haridas, ma'am, to continue further.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's my privilege to welcome Madam Margaret Alva. Madam, I have seen you earlier in all the social media or even in the television and all. I have heard a lot of speeches and all which ma'am has given otherwise, powerful speeches and all which you have given otherwise. I hail from Shimoga, which is very near to her place. So that's a privilege, like for me to welcome somebody to near to my native place, holding so many important positions from the beginning. Almost 45 years of political experience, and a very known person in Congress always. I'm very happy today to welcome you, ma'am, in the class. A few months back, when we started communicating with ma'am's office regarding the sessions and all, when I got the confirmation, principal agreement, when I got it for the first time, I was the first one to be very happy, saying that Margaret Alvaji will be delivering the session for this particular batch. She was here earlier with the third and fourth batch, and after that, we had some gaps in between, and this time, possibly, we are fortunate to have you again in the class. I also requested ma'am, even Rahul sir also requested ma'am to continue the academic association, so that in case if we can have more academic engagement instead of having one session, maybe if we can have maybe 10 sessions, then we'll be more grateful to you, to have in the future. Maybe once a month, the way we have Narendra Jadhav sir, we have Kumar Ketkarji and all these people, so that as a Professor Emeritus, we really want you to be here like Professor Emeritus. We'll be grateful to you. Have that association, which is the academic engagement further. I remember a story. A person, he was on the horse, and horse जो है वो कीचड़ में हो जाता है एक बार, like अगर कीचड़ में है तो it cannot come out. Person tries his best to take that horse out from that particular problem, but somehow he is unable to do that. So he decides, okay, let me bury that horse live. So because he loves horse and he doesn't want to leave as it is. So he starts putting the mud on that. And once he starts putting the mud on that, the horse shakes its body. And every time he puts the mud, within an hour's time, the horse is out of the problem, right? Why I'm remembering this particular story, even though the story is of horse and all, but still, whenever you are in a problem, it just depends on how you come out of that particular problem, which is very, very important. And once we listen to the speeches of ma'am and all, I always think about that. Problem is not important for us. How one comes out of the problem and still you are stubborn. That's possibly the right word when I see ma'am. How best you have the principle to be in that particular group, and you're so stubborn so that you are the one who is standing out in that particular as a group of politicians as such. So this is how Okay. This is the way we really would like to take the sessions further. Without taking up much time, ma'am, all my students are very eager to hear you. We have requested ma'am today to talk about her political journey, like that is, which is very, very important. Of course, we also have given few more sessions later, but she'll be starting with her political journey. Even the book, in case if we can talk about your book also, there's an excellent book. We will be keeping that in our library also. Excellent book where she talks about the ins and outs of Congress and all, and and the way maybe to some extent we can also forecast the future of Congress based on that particular review of that particular book and all. So I request you to speak on all those lines today, so that we will definitely be in a position to have more of academic engagement. Yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot.
पानी का बोतल उसमें ग्लास में डाल. You are the what director? Yeah. Madam Director on है. Madam Director, faculty members, and budding politicians. How many of you are planning to get into politics after this? Wow, you're going to have problems in Parliament, huh? With all you trained people getting there, with old people without training sitting around, right? Okay. Now, to begin with, I'm not talking about my book today. I'm not talking about my life. I will be giving a series of lectures, as has been today discussed, on various subjects affecting political participation, women in politics, politics at the grassroots in the panchayats. Over 45 years, the various fields in which I have personally worked, met challenges and come forward. There will be extempore speeches, sharing of experiences and answering any questions that you want. I want to say one thing. I know you have different political backgrounds. I don't come as a Congress spokesperson. I want to make it very clear. I am out of active politics. That's why I can stand today anywhere and speak out my mind. When I was finishing my term in Rajasthan, Modi ji had also in the meantime appointed me governor of Gujarat and Goa. But I decided that my 5 years were over and that I would like to move out and live life on my terms, not on anybody else's terms. So the day my term was over, I left Raj Bhavan and went home. So don't think that what I speak is either to criticize some party or to point out something about another party. This is not a party, if I may say so, forum. This is for you to raise questions. You may have different ideologies. Some are leftists, some are rightists, and as they say, some are typists. So whatever you would like to ask, I'm prepared to answer after I have spoken. Okay? Now, we are marking 70 years of India's independence. We've just celebrated it. And I think it's an appropriate time for us to assess the past, see what we have achieved, see where we have failed, see where corrections are needed, and also to assess the challenges that we face as a nation today and maybe in the next 30 years when we will be marking our centenary. We are a young democracy compared, to many other countries. We are young. We got our independence only 70 years ago. But today, we are two generations. I am the past who has lived life from 47 right through. And you are the future. We may have made mistakes. We may have failed the young people on some counts. It is for you as young political thinking people to realize that if corrections are to be made, if the course has to be corrected, and if the discourse on Indian politics has to become what the constitution makers had dreamt of, then it is for you as the future generation to think of where the corrections have to be made and how. Because in a democracy, ultimately, it's the people who decide. It is how you are able to influence young people to change attitudes, to correct what is going wrong, and to become leaders in your own sphere of political work. That's the challenge you face. Therefore, I would say that today I would begin, my lecture is going to be on the changing face of Indian democracy. The constitution, the freedom movement, what was envisaged, what we all dreamed of when we came into politics, and what are the challenges we face today, and how we plan to meet them as we go along. I was just saying when we were coming in the car, I was Minister for Youth Affairs and Sports for 5 years in Rajiv Gandhi's government. And we had a big discussion one day on youth and universities. And somebody said, oh, the youth are all with you, Rajiv ji, you know, they are all pro-government now, they are all with you. I said, when youth turn pro-government, it's a dangerous signal. It means youth have stopped thinking. Because the history of every youth movement, Europe in the 70s, you know, every country has seen youth in turmoil at particular phases. And that has marked basic change in processes, in the life of students, of young people. Unless students think and protest and demand change, you are a society which is going into decay, because there will be no change, there will be no challenge, and there will be nothing to plan for the future. You have your own vision, you have your own ambitions, you have your own thinking about what India should be. That doesn't have to be what was my thinking when I was your age, nor maybe of my father or my grandfather, because our thinking processes have to evolve. And therefore you are here in this famous institution. One of the things we have to think about is talking without electricity, right? गाँव में जाते हैं तो कुछ नहीं है, ऐसे बात करते हैं हम लोग, and politician को तो माइक की भी जरूरत नहीं, जहाँ पहुँचते हैं बात करते हैं. Okay, so when I am talking about India as a democracy, 70 years old on its 70th birthday, I want to say that we are a young democracy, and the glorious history. We were the only country which was able to throw the most powerful empire of our times out without arms, with a non-violent, peaceful movement led by Mahatma Gandhi. And we learned many lessons in that freedom movement. Of accommodation, Gandhiji spoke about satyagraha and truth, that truth will prevail, justice will prevail. And therefore that tradition has become part of the thinking processes in India right through the freedom movement and after. And therefore today I begin by saluting our freedom fighters, those who gave up everything. My parents-in-law were both in jail. My father-in-law in Yerwada jail for 3.5 years, and my mother-in-law in Arthur Road jail with a 5-month-old babe in arms. They had the courage to take their children, to take on things and fight the British. And she used to say how they had never made speeches before, and in 42, when all the men were sent to jail, The women used to sit and write speeches for each other, learn them by heart, and go to the meetings which were being cancelled because the men had been arrested. So the processes of the freedom movement created leaders who, after independence, were able to give us a constitution which embodied all the ideas of the freedom movement. And what were they? An inclusive society, that everybody has a place, a society in which all Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Isai hai bhai. There was communal harmony, integration. The role of women were given a place even in the constitution. So all that was thought about before freedom became part of the constitution, and we today salute them for having laid the foundations of a country which has survived so many challenges and problems. We withstood the pressures of partition, the violence, the anger, the frustration, and the movement of huge populations. Today you are seeing populations moving to Europe from Syria and all these places. Europe is being overrun by populations from outside. Today they are realizing, I hope they are realizing, what they did to us 70 years ago. जो करते हैं ना वो वापस आ जाता है. They divided us, and we faced the trauma of partition, of death, of destruction, of communal clashes, divided brothers from brothers, and yet we were able to hold on and come out of that challenge and the trauma. We adopted a constitution that embodied the best of our traditions and commitments. Secularism, a socialist pattern of society, and democracy with individual freedoms and equality for all. That's all in the constitution. I'm not saying it for the sake of saying. I'm not quoting articles, but this is part of the constitution. We faced the traumas of wars over the years. China, Pakistan, Bangladesh, bahut kuch dekha hai. Of refugees, of hunger, and of poverty. It was not easy because the British had left us literally bankrupt. There was nothing to fall back on. We were not even producing a needle in India when we became free. And we had to take off from there. And then the eternal problem of communal flare-ups, caste conflicts, and social tensions. We have seen them happening in different parts of the country, sometimes under Congress government, sometimes under some other government. It was irrespective of which party was ruling. But this, if I may say so, jo ek keeda lagate hai na, you have some ailment where you get a little worm into the foot and it keeps festering and goes around the body. This is what has happened after partition. The little worm of communal mistrust has continued to fester all through our history over 70 years. So has the question of caste. I'll talk about it in detail a little later, and of social tensions. Today you have honor killings, intercaste marriages ho jayenge to bas maar do donon ko aur kuch. You are seeing this in various forms, the social tensions and the fear of women being empowered and coming out in their own right. The more you try to bring them out, the more the men will try to suppress them within the family and within society. And then we have had repeated, even now, Karnataka, they say this year is going to be the 3rd year of drought in succession. You've had whole areas of Maharashtra where trains had to carry water, drinking water. So droughts, floods in other parts of the country, you're seeing it on TV, calamities of various kinds, bridges collapsing, flyovers collapsing, something else happening, many of them man-made, buildings collapsing, and natural disasters, earthquakes, tsunami, aur kuch, which takes a heavy toll not only on lives, but also on national resources, on the administrative machinery, because everything is diverted from other areas to meet these calamities. And then we have had the food crisis of the 60s. You were probably not born. Abhi to bahut खाना मिलता है, सब कुछ ठीक है. But in the 60s, we had the problem of not enough food to feed our people. And that was the time Indira Gandhi appealed to the United States for PL 480, food, you know, Public Law 480, in which they used to give food aid to countries which need it. But they were giving it to India with so many conditions. You know, they said India is a communist country, they are this, that. They wanted us to make so many compromises before they would give us food. Some negotiations took place, some came, but they refused most of it. And that is the time Indira ji said, I will never beg for food again. We will make the country self-sufficient, and all the scientists and our agricultural experts got together and launched the Green Revolution, the first Green Revolution, which made India self-sufficient in food. Because we said national security, the first important thing is food for the people. You can't starve your people if you want to be a self-respecting nation. And then you know that in the 90s, that is more familiar to you all, was the great financial crisis. Even our gold had been hypothecated in the banks in London. And I was in government with P.V. Narasimha Rao. The first challenge was to redeem our gold and the prestige of the country, and to be able to start the economic processes. That is the time Manmohan Singh was brought out by P.V. Narasimha Rao and made the finance minister. I'm sorry, he was first the chairman of the planning commission, and later became finance minister in P.V. Narasimha Rao's government, and all the reforms, 30 years of reforms that we are celebrating today, came with that team of P.V. Narasimha Rao and Manmohan Singh. Then, but I would say, through all these crises, I've just said in brief, we stood together as a nation. Whether it was the China war, when everybody went and gave their Mangal Sutras, their gold and whatever they had, people went into the army. Whenever there has been a crisis or a challenge, our people have stood as one, forgetting their communal clashes and everything else. India has stood as one and faced them because we had leaders with a vision and a commitment to keep India united. And we moved and proved wrong all those. There were many who had freedom, said, kya democracy is desh mein? Pad likh nahi sakte hain, kya vote denge? And they said India will fall apart in 10 years. In 47, 2 countries. और उसके बाद एक 10-15 साल भी नहीं बचेगा ये देश. So many people, poverty, differences, everybody predicted the British first. That give them freedom, they will fall apart in 10 years. So this was the hope and the belief, but we proved them all wrong, and India has survived, grown and proved its strength over these 75 years, which we have to be proud of. We keep criticizing, अरे ये खराब है, वो खराब है. आप लोग नहीं जानते हैं, जब हम बच्चे थे हमारे घर में एक टेलीफोन नहीं देखा था. वो ब्लैक फोन जो अभी तुम लोग अभी म्यूजियम्स में डालते हैं as a thing of the past, we didn't even have a phone when it first came. We used to get scared, कोई बात कर रहा है. You know, that was the way in which India has progressed. We started making our own telephones in ITI in Bangalore. And I went to see that factory, and it was a miracle for us कि दूर से उसमें तो voice आता है. So we have seen things come the long way, and I think this generation, the post-independence generation, I would say the post-80 generation, you all must be, most of you, 30 साल भी नहीं हुए तुम लोगों को. Some of you may be past 30. This is a new world as far as those of us who have seen the past. I still can't operate computers, honestly. And my grandson of 9, I told him, Baba, mujhe thode sikhao na, I don't want to. He tried 2 days. Then he says, Mama, you are too old for this. Chhod dijiye. If you want something, I'll do it for you, but I can't teach you. You are too old to learn. So, this is the new generation. From the age of 5, they are handling computers. Now, I've just briefly glanced through our many achievements. We are today one of the fastest growing economies of the world. We stand fourth in the world in new growing economies. We have stable governments at the center and in the states. I mean, now and then कुछ होता है, इसको आयाराम गयाराम ओके तड़ी government collapse होता है, बाद में Supreme Court restore करता है, but the stability of the democratic processes have come to stay and nobody can. Indira ji meddled with some of the provisions of the constitution during the emergency, and you see how the people, illiterate masses of India, punished the Congress and defeated both Indira Gandhi and her son, Sanjay. So the people of India decide, and this is the greatness of Indian democracy, that even illiterate people know when to restore the balance and ensure that democracy survives. Then I would say democracy now has taken roots. Nobody can undo that. And most important, both the center and the states, there are different governments, there are different manifestos, different political leaders, and yet we stand united because of our cooperative federalism, despite different manifestos. ममता का manifesto एक है, जयललिता का और कुछ है, और महाराष्ट्र में और कुछ है, कभी कभी गोरक्षा होता है, कभी कभी और कुछ होता है, शिवसेना का और एक agenda है. But still, as a nation, we have stable governments, and in the states, once elected, the governments survive. We have regular elections and a very powerful election commission now. You can't play the fool with the election commission anymore. And your chairman of the institute, Seshan, T.N. Seshan was the man who put the fear of God into politicians as chief election commissioner. इतने डरते थे उनको, कभी उनके पास जाना था तो मुझे भेजते थे. He was very fond of me because I had worked with him in Rajiv Gandhi's days. A lot of things we used to do together. So even after Rajiv ji had died and he was cabinet secretary, and then he was coming. If I went to his office, you won't believe it, he would make me a cup of coffee or tea. Margaret, what can I make for you? He would have a kettle. And once I went with Pranab Mukherjee took me along. He says, "Main to iske paas jaane ko, those days, thoda darta hu, tum aao saath mein." So we went. We had some problem in the election commission. And the moment I went, he says, "Oh, Margaret has come. What can I make, tea or coffee?" Pranab Mukherjee ko hello bhi nahi bola. So Pranab Dal looked at me and I said, "Sir, what will you have?" He says, No, I don't have anything. I said, "No, you'll have to have something." And he made tea for both of us. That was Mr. Seshan. But politicians feared him, and he really restored the dignity of the election commission and the electoral processes. Achha. Then you have, of course, now we are talking about, besides this, we have an independent judiciary, and these days you are all reading, it's becoming assertive, judgments pulling up governments, restoring governments, challenging the president's order, imposing president's rule. Sab kuch ho raha hai, but the judiciary today is showing that it is truly independent and cannot be bullied. And the government, of course, is withholding appointment of judges. The Chief Justice shed tears कि इतने vacancies हैं, तुम तो हमारे list clear नहीं करते. वो collegium की बात. We'll have a different discussion later on the judiciary. But the collegium, which the government wanted, the judges said no. So there is a bit of ego hassle, and there are problems, but the judiciary has stood independent with few variations here and there. And most important, we have the All India Services which were created. You have the Interstate Council for solving disputes. And of course, recently the GST passed after 10 years of fighting. जब ये सरकार में है वो नाम बोलते हैं, जब वो सरकार में आते हैं ये नाम बोलते हैं. like children, but finally they have passed it. And we are glad that now the taxation, uniform taxation pattern for the entire country will become a reality, integrating the economy even more. Now, the freedom movement, we have to admit, was dominated by the Congress under Mahatma Gandhi. Whoever later on formed parties started in the Congress, were part of the freedom movement, and later fell apart and formed their own parties and their own regional groupings. But you have to admit that it was the first governments after independence that ensured that the constitutional provisions of unity, equality, and secular democratic institutions stayed stable. Second, took democracy to the grassroots. You know that Panchayati Raj, when Rajiv ji I was in government, we were trying to pass it. Everybody opposed it. They defeated it in parliament when he was alive, saying, "Ye kya tamasha hai? Ye kahan chalega? Bilkul nahi chalega." Nobody wanted to give up power to the local panchayats, neither the bureaucracy nor the politicians. So, but we took it down to the grassroots, gave the right to vote to 18-year-olds, made them part of the political processes. We brought in the socialist pattern of society. We didn't go communist, but we said there is room for the private and a dominant public sector. Resources were few. They had to be distributed in a way that the maximum number of people would benefit from them. So large industry in the public sector, institutions of higher learning, education, universities, creation of infrastructure, dams, roads, airports, but most of all, what Pandit Nehru said at that time when he inaugurated the Bakra Nangal Dam, he said, these are the new temples of India, which will serve and protect our interests. So there was a certain liberal thinking in those early years with, of course, electoral reforms have come, electronic machine. तो उसको अभी दबाना है तो machine में करना है. Some say that they are manipulated, some say they are defective. But those earlier days, कितना भी bogus voting करते थे. वो तो पर्ची लेके इसके नाम से उसके नाम से. I too have done once or twice some bogus voting in the villages when we went. कि देते थे, you know, one of my friends, a lady, poor thing, they gave her a slip. उसमें तो your name, your husband's name, and some your age. पर्ची देते थे. So she went, she forgot they had written the husband's name. She was a poor old widow. Some husband's name was written on that. And when she went there, they said, हाँ, पति का नाम क्या है? She forgot, she couldn't read what was written on the slip. But she was so smart, she said, अरे, शर्म नहीं आती? पति का नाम कोई लेते हैं क्या? पूछते हो? She shouted at him and saying, we don't take our husband's names. You know, in the villages, they don't take the husband. शर्म नहीं आती है? पति का नाम मैंने बोलना है क्या? ये बुढ़ापे में? And she voted and came away. But she said, "Ayo, मैं जेल जाती, तुम लोगों ने मुझे फंसा दिया." So that's how bogus voting used to take place. And then you had the whole foundations for a society where science and technology and space, nuclear energy, all these things started within the country. We began to bring technology and develop it. And of course, all the things that have followed, you know, I will not mention. But there were basic social changes. Land reform, land to the tiller became the slogan in the 60s, and huge lands were distributed to the tiller. And labor laws also to protect the labor. But the most important landmark was the Hindu Code Bill, which was opposed by many, but it came and gave basic rights also to women in the Hindu Code Bill, and legislation for social reforms like women's rights and empowerment, dowry law, और बहुत laws आए, I won't mention them today. And then came the nationalization of banks, of mines, and abolition of privy purses, which were very historic decisions to make the government truly a government of the people, where they would get the benefits and not only the rich and the powerful. And on the foreign policy count, we had non-alignment, which made India the spokesperson of the newly independent countries. It was that time Cold War, the Russian bloc and the American bloc. You had to belong to one of them. Pandit Nehru said, no, we will not belong to either. We will be independent in our decisions. We will say what is right and what is wrong. That's how the non-aligned, we were at 85 countries at one time. It became the voice of the weakest in international affairs. And then you had, of course, the Commonwealth, which the British created to still keep their empire together. Now even Britain is fallen apart. Brexit mein to itna chota ho gaya. The empire is all gone. And then you have the SAARC. SAARC was a very important, if I may say, alignment of countries, the 7 countries of the subcontinent, which brought our countries on in a common forum to discuss and decide issues, which is still going on. And our efforts at disarmament and a nuclear-free world, which was the concept that Rajiv Gandhi as Prime Minister with 6 other nations took to the United Nations. And now, of late, after the Modi government came, Yoga, International Day of Yoga has been accepted. You have got Mahatma Gandhi's birthday observed by the United Nations, that was done earlier, as World Peace Day in honor of Mahatma Gandhi. So India emerged in spite of everything on all these fronts and began to dictate its own destiny. Now, what is the future going to be? You are the leaders of tomorrow. And I want you, I'm not giving you solutions. I want you, maybe in the course of the discussion afterwards, to concentrate on what are the challenges that we as a young democracy of 70 is facing in the present context. I would be very honest and very frank, and these are things which you are reading in the newspapers. I'm not saying something new or coming with a new thesis. One is the whole debate on the concept of nationalism. What is nationalism? Could any one of you define it for me? Koi bhi ek. What do you think nationalism is? To national duties, rights and duties जो constitution में है. But I am talking about how do you define nationalism? Basically, don't you think that nationalism is an emotional attachment to something which you consider very important to you? It is not a map or a flag or a slogan. Nationalism is what you feel from within. You're prepared to give your life for your country.
It is the spirit which connects hearts of the citizens.
That's right. See, that's a very good idea of putting it. It connects the hearts of the citizens. It's an emotion which binds us together. Whatever our differences, when it comes to a war, when it comes to a calamity, we unite because we feel that sense of nationalism, of unity and of belonging, right? That's why the flag has 3 colors. It unites all of us together in that one symbol of national unity. But who decides the definition? And who imposes it? Is it possible for one group to say, this is the definition of nationalism, you accept it, if you don't, leave the country? Ye bhi maine suna hai. Christians ko bola hai, you fall in line or go to the West. Damn it, why should I go to the West? This is my country as much as it is yours and was mine even before you were born. I'm older than many people who are giving these slogans. And when the Prime Minister intervened the other day and said something, men like Tagodia are challenging the Prime Minister. He has no business to make these statements. And if a Prime Minister doesn't put the record right, who else is going to do it other than the Prime Minister? And therefore, I'm saying that this debate on nationalism is creating more divisions than unity in the country. Each one of us has our own attachment, our commitment, our own idea of our nationalism. And that cannot be certified by him or by you. It is my idea of my nation, my country, and my patriotic attachment to it. It doesn't mean to say that the soldier in Siachen is more patriotic than me or you. We are all patriotic. When the time comes, we prove our commitments, as it were. No one ideology should be allowed to define the meaning of India or nationalism. We are all part of it. Second is the place of minorities, whether they are linguistic, whether they are religious, they are today caste minorities. यहाँ तो पूरे हम एक caste के हैं, तो इनको जगह नहीं है. हम सब, now we have got linguistic states. अरे यहाँ तो तमिल में लोग रहेंगे, तमिलनाडु में दूसरे जाइए जहाँ से आए. Or you go to Rajasthan and you say you only speak Hindi, otherwise nobody else can work or be here. You know, those kind of divisions. And a minority is a minority in any major community. In fact, I was reading today a beautiful quotation which said that every one of us is a minority. Because against everybody around me, I am a minority. My thinking may be different. I may feel different. So the question is, do the minorities have a role and a place in our society? Whichever the minority, it might be linguistic, it might be religious, it might be anything. Here, I've got 3 or 4 quotations which are very telling, and these are on Independence Day, which have come out beautifully. One is by Kannaya. I will read it later when we come to that part of it. Then you have the new concept of the moral code. Who decides what is the moral code? Somebody comes out in a dress or a pant and a shirt, a girl. नहीं, लड़कियों ने पैंट क्यों पहनना है? उतारो, निकालो. You have to dress in a sari or a salwar kameez or a lehenga choli. So the concept of the moral code in Mangalore, where I come from, where there never was a problem, a Muslim boy and girl studying in the same class were walking after their field trip to the bus. Somebody realized that one was a Muslim and one was a Hindu. Do you know the crowd collected and beat up both of them? How are you mingling? You are a Muslim, you are a Hindu. ये तो love jihad है, साथ में नहीं चलना है, निकालो इनको. You know, this bashing, they again went into pubs in other places where girls and boys were all having a party. मार दिया लड़कियों को, TV पे दिखाया, they were fallen on the ground, pull them, threw them out. See, this kind of moral policing cannot be part of a democracy. I have the right to eat what I want, as long as I am not indecently dressed in public. I have the right to wear whatever I want to wear. Jeans or t-shirts, or if boys, in some school in the UK, the boys are coming in skirts. You saw that news item. They said that girls can come in pants if they want. So the boys said, if the girls can come in pants, we can come in skirts. If you're talking about equality in dress, we will come in skirts. So you see, this is what I'm saying is the right of a citizen to eat, to pray the way you want, to worship the way you want, as long as you are not getting in the way of others. Something may be holy to me. It may not be holy to her or to you. Now, I'm coming to this very sensitive issue of the cow. Yes, many people worship the cow. We respect it. You go to the Northeast. I've been in charge of the Northeast for 30 years. In the Northeast, the staple food is beef and pork and the mithun, you know, which is a big buffalo. Now, you can pass any law in India. They will still eat what they want to eat. And they've openly said, तुम कुछ भी करो, हम तो खाएंगे, हमारे घर में रखते हैं, हम खाते हैं. So, you know, you can't impose vegetarianism on everyone. There are many hostels, many hotels which don't serve non-vegetarian food. That's their policy. It's up to them. Don't go there if you don't want to. But to say you will only do this or only do that is, I believe, not democracy or freedom of the individual. Then we come to religious segregation. Now, this is becoming a big problem. There are advertisements in some parts of the country, which these group housing societies hote hain na, only for Hindus or Muslims not admitted. There might be reasons, but you can't keep saying nobody can buy a building, a flat in this building. It is only for Hindus. They say ये लोग तो हम वेजिटेरियन है, ये सब नॉन वेजिटेरियन खाते हैं, हमको अच्छा नहीं लगता है और कुछ है. But there is a certain public policy that housing is open to everyone. You may quietly not admit, but you can't put up boards and advertisements saying, like, earlier there used to be advertisements, only Muslims may apply for the Middle East jobs. Now they are all coming running back, of course. But there was this thing, only Muslims, jobs in the Middle East. Others were not being recruited. So all these kinds of concepts, I think, are changing the face of Indian democracy. And these, to me, are danger signals in the parameter of national survival. And there is the issue, can I sit now for a little while? My knee is getting stiff. Little while. No, nothing. My knee will be okay just now. Then you come to the issue of Dalit awakening, which is today a very big issue in the country. Let us not downplay it. The atrocities on Harijans have gone on all along, Dalits. In spite of Mahatma Gandhi, Ambedkar, and the social movements for their liberation, atrocities in various forms have continued. And I want you to realize that the caste system put people at different categories. Now you had so-called, I'm only saying, so-called untouchables. Inko pani nahi dena hai. They cannot drink from our common well. If water is to be given, it has to be poured from the top. They can't drink from the same glass. Mayawati ji was once telling me, we were colleagues in parliament and we are good friends. She said, Margaret ji, hum jab chote the na, rasta tha. Pure Harijan is taraf. Hum sab untouchables the. हमको तो वो रास्ता पार करके ऊंचे वर्ग के लोगों के इलाके में पाँव नहीं रखना था. हम बच्चे थे, कभी कभी बाग के उधर गए तो मार पीट होती थी. जाओ वापस यहाँ, don't pollute our part. So she said, साल बाद उधर ही टेहरी में दूसरे जगह है, पर मेरा फैमिली का जो पुराना स्थल था उधर ही मैंने मेरा घर बनाया, अच्छा घर बनाया और मुख्यमंत्री बनी. तो ये लोग रास्ता पार करके मेरे पास आते हैं उनका काम होने के लिए. हमें उधर क्रॉस नहीं करना था, पर अभी वो क्रॉस करके मेरे पास आ रहे हैं. दैट इज सोशल चेंज. एंड शी सेड, मैंने तो डेलिबरेटली उधर ही घर बनाया, बोला कि कुछ होना है तो आ जाइए मेरे घर. See, this is change, but it doesn't happen everywhere, and we all know it. And the worst part is these new movements. One is Ghar Wapsi, where scheduled castes had converted to Buddhism, Christianity, or other things. There was a big meeting recently, and I'm telling you this. They called all these people, offered them all the benefits of Hindu society, कि तो आप वापस आइए. घर वापसी का बड़ा फंक्शन था, पैसे भी दे रहे थे, उनको यूटेंसिल्स दे रहे थे. तो एक ने खड़े होके बोला, हाँ हम वापस आएंगे, पर what will be our caste when we come back? हम दलित थे, इसके लिए हम गए थे क्योंकि हमको कोई तुम्हारे टेंपल में जाना नहीं था। अभी तो हम गिरजा में जाते हैं, मॉस्क में जाते हैं, कोई नहीं रोकता है। अगर हम वापस आएंगे कल, will we enter temples? Will we be Brahmins like you or the upper caste? What will be our caste when we come back? They had no answer and the meeting adjourned. क्योंकि वो they were not prepared to tell them कि हम आपको ऊंचे दर्ग में लगाएंगे। उन्हें कहा हम छोड़ के गए because of this. So why should we come back to the same thing again? You don't let me enter a temple. You don't let me pray to your deity. I also want to have my life. So there is this new concept now of Dalits fighting back. Oh, ये जो उनको मारा वो TV में दिखाया. You know what their reply now is? We will not touch dead animals. It was their profession. They used to earn by doing it. They say we will starve, but we won't touch. Dead animals in goshalas, dead animals on the roads, dead animals in the villages, no Dalit is touching today. That is their vow. Hum nahi. And I'm told, I was talking to people, the next thing is human scavenging mein haath nahi lagayenge. Their leaders are telling them, don't clean toilets. Let each one clean their own toilets, then the social revolution will come. I can tell you in my house, I clean my own. Not those kind of, they are flush toilets. But I don't let my servant do it. I clean it myself. My toilet, I will clean. This is becoming a movement. कि एक एक को अपनी घर की सफाई करने दो. And I am saying स्वच्छ भारत का सेस हमसे लेते हैं. Let the government put up thousands of toilets, water toilets, so that the Dalits don't have to go and clean your toilets in. These are the changes which are to be envisaged in the new phase of Indian democracy. Unless these things happen, friends, nothing is going to change. And this new phase of the Dalit awakening clashes between the upper caste and the lower caste, particularly because they are getting educated, they are moving up, and they are demanding their place and their rights. And therefore, there is a resistance, just like with women. What is honor killings? What is this atrocities and rape on girls and women? It is society's reaction to their freedom, to their empowerment, and to their coming out. They want to put them back where they belong, in the house, not to come out. And so the fierce psychosis is created. And I would say, about women, I won't say much here, because every day you read about rape. It was female feticide before, where the girl child is killed in the womb. Dowry, all sorts of domestic violence. Stories are appalling and frightening, even today behind closed doors. And this is something which 50% of the population of India is still facing after 70 years of freedom and all the legislation that we have brought. And this is what I think is going to also become a social, if I may say so, fight back by 50% of India's population. There are some other issues which I do want to highlight before we could start discussing them, and that is, I have got some figures which I can give you. Conviction rates of crimes against Dalits. Maharashtra is 0.05%. Conviction of Harijan atrocities in cases, 0.05%. Gujarat, 0.09%. Karnataka, 1.1%. And Madhya Pradesh, 8%. This is of the cases which are registered and taken up. And this is a very interesting feature which the National Crimes Bureau has given. Between 1995 and 2010, 1.5 crore complaints were filed under the Harijan Atrocities Act, increasing at 2.8% a year, because they are educated and now they are filing cases. but only 5,58,000 were registered of Harijan atrocities out of 1.5 crore. Only 5,58,000 were registered, and 95% of the cases registered were not under the SC/ST Act, only under the IPC. Because if you register them under the Harijan Act, you have to arrest, and they're, very stringent provisions. So they are never registered by the police under the Act, but under IPC, so that they don't have to apply those conditions. The judiciary, the police, all have that mental block on helping the Dalits. And this is becoming more and more obvious, even with the judiciary, which we have to admit. Now, coming just to the economy, it is true that we are opening up. We are talking about FDI, investments, growth. But two questions I want to ask. Where is the GDP going? Who is benefiting? Is the gap between the rich and the poor closing or growing? We are given big figures of GDP growth. But unless the GDP is distributed evenly between various sections, you are not going to see any change in the lives of the people or the quality of their lives. You have concessions to trade and industry, tax concessions. You have SCZs, for which huge agricultural land of tribals, land of the weaker sections is acquired. And the reports which you have seen now, they have not been used for creating industry or jobs. They have been kept so the value goes up, and many of them have applied for converting them into housing and huge profits. Now in our state, some states, they have passed legislation saying if within 5 years it is not used for the purpose, then it will be taken back. But why should the state be acquiring land and giving it to industries like the East India Company, which took over our land and became our rulers in the end? The other thing is, yesterday they have introduced insurance law. Did you all read it? Draft insurance law in Parliament. Whatever, in an accident, this is to help the insurance companies. In an accident, no matter what the court orders, 30 lakhs as compensation, death, maybe, they give so much compensation for a death, negligent driving, so on. The limit is being fixed at 10 lakhs. Court can give you 20 lakhs or 40 lakhs. The bill says the ceiling will be at 10 lakhs. Who's going to pay for the medical bills, the other expenses, everything which the court is sanctioning? But the government legislation says it will be capped at 10 lakhs, not more. Does this help the common people, or does it help the big insurance companies? Now, there are various other such things which are coming in the name of industrial development. Subsidies are being withdrawn, food prices are going up, and FDI, direct investment in various sectors, is killing the small and medium industry because they can't meet the competition of the big, huge multinationals and others who are dumping things like toothpaste, soap, even apples are coming, agriculture I'll come to. Everything is coming from outside. You are importing indiscriminately, and you will see the impact on jobs. Though we are saying make in India, the producer is not becoming the consumer, because the prices are so high that the common people are, even dal, there has been so many agitations about the price of dal, about essentials, about medicines now, prices going up, and so on and so forth. And therefore, while we talk about development, I'm simply asking, development for who? And how is it benefiting the common people? This is a challenge which you people, as young, intellectual thinking people will have to ask as policymakers, are the benefits of development being distributed equally or are they being cornered? Look at the statistics. India stands at 135 in the Human Development List out of the United Nations 185. We are at 135. Whereas the list of billionaires and multi-billionaires, Indians, is growing every year. On the human development scale, we keep coming down. So it's obvious where the benefits are going. And I don't understand the number of cesses that are being imposed. We today have, besides the taxes we pay, you have a Swachh Bharat cess, you have an education cess, you have a road cess now for the highways, plus toll gates all over the highways. Then you have now in states like Haryana, Gau Raksha cess to protect the cows. Okay, and you also have a farmers development cess. The number of cesses outside the budget and outside the taxation is unbelievable. And where is that money going? Who's accounting for it? And what is happening to it? These are questions which now we have begun to ask. Now, Make in India is another slogan. I know it can create jobs, but it has been pointed out. Foreign companies are coming, bringing money, exploiting your natural resources and exporting for profits. And the profit is not staying in the country, it's going out. So ultimately, it is your natural resources that are being used without any benefit in the long run to your people, because most of these items are being exported. Agriculture, you know the farmer's suicides, you know the farm distress, you know that what is produced, what the farmer gets and what the consumer pays. There's a huge difference because there are too many intermediaries. The people in between either hoard or they add their own profit in the food chain, which makes it too expensive when it reaches the homes. As far as the farmer is concerned, he commits suicide because the MSP, minimum support price, does not cover his costs. And droughts and floods keep destroying his seeds, as his crops. And then you have the droughts, annual floods, and lack of storage facilities when they have big crops, or irrigation. There is so much water going to the sea, but we don't have plans to divert it to agriculture and to rain-fed areas. There are various issues here, I will not go, but there is one issue which I want you to debate. The NREG, started with Maharashtra, the National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, which was named after Mahatma Gandhi. Now here, we are raising wages of the landless farmer. It has, I think, gone up to 150, 175 in some states. Okay. Now what is happening? This was supposed to be only in the lean season when there is no farming activity and the landless labor has no employment. So they were guaranteed 100 days of employment during that period. What is happening today? This scheme is being implemented even vote bank politics. To keep them happy, elections are coming, naukri de do. So you are providing NREG throughout the year, affecting cultivation, because labor does not go now for cultivation, say humko NREG rates de do, or they go there, they get 150 up to 200 rupees, they work for 5 or 6 days, 3-4 members of the family, they get enough and they sit at home. And the crisis in the farms today is lack of agricultural labor. While we had meant to help labor, labor today has become counterproductive because they don't want to go for normal agricultural work, and farmers, large and medium, are having problems with this? Well, there are various other things I can come to, but maybe we can talk about. But there's one thing I do want to bring out, and that is regional imbalances in development. Investments don't go evenly to all the states or to all the areas. You had the Planning Commission and the 5-year plans which sought to distribute national resources available more evenly to all the states according to their needs. Now we have abolished the Planning Commission. The 5-year plans are gone. You have the Niti Aayog, which takes decisions, but there is no long-term planning. And with the states' demands going up, more and more space is being given to the states. And I believe, you may not agree with me, that the weakening of the center, financially, politically, or otherwise, is not a very good sign for the future. States have different agendas. They have very demanding and assertive leaderships which are taking charge. Their priorities are often opposed to national priorities or national interests, but they are becoming the dominant factor in decision making. That is going to create problems as we go along, because the more you let go, the less will be your control to keep the states together. And this is a challenge which you people will have to meet as you go along. And the big gap between urban and rural investments is another issue which is going to create imbalances. And so I would say, friends, the human side of development, as we envisage in our democracy, is gradually becoming a shadow of the past. It is all, we are told, oh, it is survival of the fittest. ये तो अभी open economy है. बड़े लोग तो जरूर, they will invest and they will make profits. And what is most disturbing is this whole concept of the trickle-down effect. Repeatedly, finance ministers are telling us, well, when development comes and money is available at the top, benefits will automatically trickle down. But our experience has shown that it does not trickle down. It stays above that ceiling, and very little of it just comes to those really in need of it. And this is going to create a great deal of anger as we go along and a lot of disturbance. Democratic processes, we will talk about some other time, but the Panchayati Raj, which has come, which has taken democracy to the grassroots to the 4th level with the 4th list in the constitution. You had the union, the state, the concurrent, and now you have the local list, the panchayats, where direct funding goes to them. It is true it has brought reservations for women, for Dalits, for the weaker sections. It has taken developmental planning to the grassroots, but also there are other issues where local politics, local demands, local pressures are diverting development budgets for populist schemes instead of real development, and corruption in the schemes as they are implemented. Everybody has become a dada. Everybody, I said once, the elected representatives are becoming contractors and the contractors are becoming elected representatives. So it is the whole mafia which controls the funding and the finances at the grassroots level. And I keep telling young people, I've been telling them in the Congress, I've been telling them at all forums, young people, moment they want politics, हमको तो पार्लियामेंट की सीट चाहिए जी, हमको एक सीट, मैं कुछ भी खर्च करने को तैयार. How many parliament seats are there and how many each party can give? Then they don't get a seat, they stand as independents, they defeat your own candidates and they lose also. I keep telling young people the real power today lies in the panchayats, in the local bodies. Women have got in and changed whole villages by becoming chairmen, by bringing change at the local level. There is money there. There is power there. There is need for educated young people with a vision to go to the grassroots and change things through panchayats and the taluk panchayats and the jilla panchayats, because that's where the real power and the real capacity to change India is. And this is a challenge which you young people must face. Parliament में कुछ होता नहीं है, हाँ हाँ हूँ करके साइन करो, गलाटा करो, बाहर जाओ और चले जाओ घर को, अच्छा सेंट्रल हॉल में खाना खाओ, घर जाओ. I'm telling you, how many days of work takes place in Parliament these days? It is always tu मैं. तुमने किया था, आज हम कर रहे हैं, हम करेंगे, कल तुम करेगा. I mean, this is the kind of politics we have come to. But if you are serious, start work at the grassroots and grow. You will have your own constituency. You won't need your political dadas to control you. You will be able to go up the ladder without any problem, and you will do the greatest service to your country. This is something which I want you to seriously think about. And of course, women are coming out in a big way. And because they have done so well, they are stalling the bill in Parliament for 33% reservation for women in assemblies and in Parliament. कि एक बार एक पाँव इनको अंदर रखने दिया तो हम तो बाहर. So they are afraid to let that bill be passed. So it's passed in the Rajya Sabha, and everybody has made a commitment to it. They will not bring it for passing in the Lok Sabha. Maybe they will bring it on the eve of the general election, when they will get some vote bank benefits from it. I don't know. And of course, we have talked of elections. You know that money power and muscle power dominate. The weaker sections have a problem. Even people like me found it so difficult to raise the money that you need for an election. Everybody is talking about, अरे एक assembly seat के लिए 20 crore चाहिए. अरे भैया 20 crore कहाँ से लाएंगे? खर्च करो और elect हो जाएगा तो वसूल करो. From next day you are already planning how to pay what you had raised or how to plan the next election. So, elections has become the bane, though democratic processes are important. And the other thing is, we are always in election mode. अरे भैया ये बिल अभी मत लाओ. I was in the party, I know. अभी बिल लाते हो, मंत्री को बोलते हैं इलेक्शन आने वाला है, 4 महीने में हार जाएंगे, इसको तो बंद करो इलेक्शन होने तक. So, no passing of that bill. ये टैक्स जरूरत है पर अभी नहीं, इलेक्शन के बाद. ये अमेंडमेंट अभी मत लाओ, गड़बड़ हो जाएगी. So, your whole electoral processes are tuned to elections. We are becoming an electoral economy. Everything is 2017, 16 वो election आ रहा है, अभी कुछ मत करो इसके बाद 16. So, this psyche politically is creating a lot of problems, and there was a proposal that all elections, Assembly and Parliament, should be held together to cut down expenses and all that. I don't think it can ever happen. And the assertive judiciary we have talked about, they are independent, but now they are fighting back. Collegium तो तुमने हमारा approve नहीं किया, हमारे list हम बेचते हैं तो सरकार पास नहीं कर रहा है. Vacancies are mounting. They have said now there are some 563 High Court judges vacancies. The list sent for 350 has not been cleared. And vacancies every day, they are retiring, and pendency is going up. And when you look at under trials languishing in jails, most of them are finishing their full years. If they had been convicted, अगर 3 साल की सजा होने वाली थी, तो 4 साल तक भी बैठे हैं वो, waiting for their trial to come up. Parole and bail is the prerogative of the rich. As Sanjay Dutt gets away, somebody else gets away. Chautala on bail goes to Rio. अरे क्या हो रहा है? पासपोर्ट को देना नहीं था उसको, वो भी मिला है और चला गया with the whole family, and got 0 medals. Of course, 2 have come, and only 2 medals have gone to girls. Remember that. बड़े बातें करते हैं ना, ये सब बंदूक लेके गए थे 2 गांव की लड़कियां. Even this girl from Maharashtra, she came 4th, but she did so well in gymnastics. It's the girls that are raising the flag now. So I'm just saying that the judicial processes are so expensive. They say if you file a case today, your great-grandson may get a judgment from the Supreme Court. इतने साल, lakhs and lakhs of pendencies, कोई जाने को डरते हैं कोर्ट में. परसों कुछ हुआ, मैंने मेरे बेटे को कहा, don't worry, we'll fight it out, go to court. He said, we'll be in court for the rest of our lives and our grandchildren also. So forget it. So, you know, lok adalats and things are being tried out now, but judicial processes have become a disaster in the country. And I can tell you, I've been a lawyer also, वो bench fix करते हैं registry से, ये judge तो pro tenant है, इसके सामने जाएगा तो तुम जीतेगा बोलता है lawyer. अच्छा तो मैनिपुलेट करके उसको उस जज के सामने डालो, या ये तो बहुत इंडस्ट्री फ्रेंडली है, बड़े बिजनेस को मदद करेगा, तुम्हारी केस उधर जानी चाहिए. You know, those are the ways in which cases are manipulated. And jails की बात मैं अभी नहीं करना चाहती हूँ, but the tragedy in our jails, they are overcrowded, understaffed, exploitation, torture, every kind of malpractice. There are no boards of visitors. There is no medical attention. And if you see the condition of the quarters of the staff, even animals can't be put there. That's supposed to be quarters for the jail staff when I visited as governor in Rajasthan and Uttarakhand. There is not enough staff. Nobody knows. They say, case aati hai court mein, staff nahi hai le jaane ko unko, to iske liye next hearing. So they are languishing in jails. Ye hota rehta hai. We need jail reform in a big way. And we are coming to center-state relations. I've talked about it before. An assertive group of state satraps are beginning to dictate terms to the center. And because of votes needed in parliament, compromises are being made, and you don't know where this is going to lead us to. And foreign policy shifts. We were neutral, we were independent, we were non-aligned. आज तो बिल्कुल we are in the embrace of the United States. वो जो बोलता है ओबामा, हम तो नाचते हैं. वो जो कहता है हम दस्तखत करते हैं. There is a tremendous shift in policy. The Soviet friendship, of course, there are a lot of things which we still do with them. But I think that is something which is not going to benefit us in the long run. Everywhere the Americans have gone, they have destabilized regimes, they have destroyed civilizations, they have created havoc. And therefore, you young people have to see what the future holds for you. In this world, you've seen what they did to Iraq, to Libya, to Egypt, all the countries, Syria, everywhere. And what was the real issue? Have you all ever thought of it? One was oil. Control of the resources of oil, because they need oil. And prices were going up. So they decided to destroy the regimes and take hold of the oil. And the second most important thing was these leaders distrusted the US. They began shifting their dollar accounts to the euro. And that triggered panic. And the United States therefore decided to dethrone these 6 countries. Gaddafi, Saddam, all of them were shifting their oil accounts to Europe to euros from dollars. And that was affecting the American economy. And so came the onslaught, including on Iran. And therefore, it is not love of India. We have had the British come. Oh, they loved us so much, and they ate us up. This is going to keep happening if we do not have a very strong policy on what we want to do. This last 2 paragraphs I'm going to read before I conclude. I've spoken more than 1 hour. No, not yet 1 hour. Just 5 minutes. India is a vast country. I'm summing up what I have tried to say to you. India is a vast country which is home to many races, cultures, traditions, ethnic identities, religions, languages, and customs. As a nation, we represent unity in diversity. We have been a peace-loving people who have absorbed people and ideas from wherever they came. The Iranians came, the Mongols came, whoever came, they came and settled and were absorbed sooner or later. Our leaders, thinkers, poets, and writers, as also religions, have taught non-violence, accommodation, and peaceful coexistence. Where are we going today? Needless blood is shed over food habits, religious practices, social mingling, and caste differences. Where is the just, inclusive society we hoped and planned for? We have to take note of the changing face of Indian democracy. Unless bold corrective action is taken to correct the course of our discourse and restore sanity in our decision-making processes, we will undermine the concept of India and shake the very foundations of the nation. I would conclude with the words of Tagore, which I think you should all learn by heart. Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where words come out of the depth of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habit, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever-widening thought and action. Into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake. This is what you young people should tell yourselves, that this is what India is all about, and this is what you as young political leaders would have to carry as a message to the people and make a watchword for you in your lives. Thank you. Jai Hind. This, I didn't read it, but this was the interview of Kannaya on Independence Day. Life outside is a bigger cage than the jail I was in. That young people are today tied up, the universities, the freedom of speech. Anything you talk or say is sedition. अरे मैंने ये भाषण किया, कुछ बोला, तो कल मुझे sedition charge करो. I mean, there has to be this whole idea of India is about free thought, about free speech, and about the right to lead your lives. If this is lost, my friends, then the idea of India is lost. I think we are having a break. Yeah. I want a cup of coffee. Yes. That's all. And I can sit through. I don't need to immediately. Give me a cup of coffee. You all want a break? You are welcome to have a break of 15 minutes. I am also ready, but it's for you to decide. You are the majority.
Do you want a break or will continue with an agenda?
We don't want to.
You don't want to? Yeah, we just start this.
Honorable Ma'am, good evening. Your articulation and the way you express things reflected your individual capacity, and we all admire that. When we speak of money power and muscle power in, let's say, elections, what was the success of your election career and how did it happen? Was it money, muscle, or some other thing behind it?
Okay. Now let me tell you one thing. My first 4 terms were in the Rajya Sabha, right? My first election was, they were all 4 from Karnataka, and my first election was managed by the party. Devarajars was the chief minister. I deposited 200 rupees as a refundable deposit. वो जीत गए, वापस मिले 200 रुपया. So my election expense was 0. Second election, that was 74. Second election, 80, I was out of the party. We were expelled because of Sanjay Gandhi, Devarajars, and the entire Karnataka unit, including me, were expelled without notice, without anything, because we had demanded election of the PCC president. It's all in my book, we'll discuss it sometime, how processes work. And that time, I was out, Gundu Rao was chief minister, was determined to defeat me with Sanjay. I was packing to go home because we didn't have the votes, we had lost the government. I mean, Devarajas was no longer in power. But he rang me up and said, don't leave Delhi. I am going to send you back to the Rajya Sabha. I said, sir, please don't feel obliged. I know we don't have the votes and we don't have the capacity to fight back. So I'm getting ready to go back. He said, no. He said, I'm just quoting him. We had been expelled by Indira Gandhi after we had got elected from Chikmagalur and all that. So he was very bitter. He said to me, I'm not an ungrateful Gandhi. I will stand by you because you have stood by me. And I will get you elected. I said, Sahab, koi nahi sakta hai. He said, leave it to me. Do you know he managed to work out support of all the opposition parties to me as an independent? The Jansangh, the CPM, the local party, and the JDS of Moraji Desai, George Fernandes. They all rallied and said, if it's Margaret Alva, we will support. So I became the united opposition candidate as an independent, and Devarajars managed that election. And believe me, I didn't spend 1 rupee. I was elected by the united opposition, the only candidate from the entire South. This was after Indira Gandhi was re-elected. You know, after 77 defeat, she was re-elected in 79, end of 79. And 80 was my election. And she would have, of course, liked me to win. She was very upset we had been expelled, but that's another story. But I came in as the only one from the entire South who came in without Sanjay Gandhi's blessings from the opposition, without spending a rupee. The third election was in 74 was the first, 80 was the second, 86 was the third, when Rajiv Gandhi was Prime Minister. And there again, they were out to get me, but Rajiv ji spoke to Mr. Ramakrishna Hegde, who was the Chief Minister of Karnataka, and said, you have to help Margaret. And we had only 1 seat from the Congress. Other 3 were Ramakrishna Hegde's. His party was in power. So I was nominated by Rajiv ji to become the candidate, and Gundu Rao and company put up Sarojini Maheshi as to defeat me. So I was terrified. I didn't have money. I didn't have anything, and Devarajars was dead. He was not there. So I was a little hesitant. Rajiv ji said, go and sit in Bangalore. Let us go and meet Ramakrishna Hegde. Ramakrishna Hegde I met at some lunch. He said, leave it to me. Rajiv has spoken to me. So I file kiya. I was keeping my fingers crossed. he announced that his party was going to contest all the 4 seats. In which case I was out, because there was no way I could come in with Ramakrishna Hegde fighting all the 4 seats. So I sat quietly. At the 11th hour, 15 minutes before withdrawals ended, he withdrew his 4th candidate. So we became, I and his 3 people came in unanimously without an election. So, you know, in politics, there is also a question of, if I may say so, luck, and a question of how you are able to network with people without money. And today, a Lok Sabha, I mean a Rajya Sabha seat from Karnataka, I'm saying, goes for anything from 60 crores to 100 crores. That's how all these industrialists and everybody are coming to Rajya Sabha. And it's a known fact. How did Malya come? आज तो लंदन में बैठा है रिजाइन करके. But it was simple, not to worry, money power. And the 4th time I came, P.V. Narasimha Rao was Prime Minister. And he put me up. And I knew Bangarappa was Chief Minister, hated me, wanted to defeat me. And I took a chance, I filed. But unknown people from unknown, we had our seats. People helped me. Jayalalitha rang up and said, Margaret ji, I have got one vote. I have told him to vote for you. Don't do anything. Means say don't give him anything. It's my vote I am giving you. 2 or 3 cross voted from the Congress for me. 1 or 2 other small parties voted for me. And I came in. Actually, for that election, Mr. Maharashtra strongman, he was Defense Minister, Sharad Pawar, called me and said, they are planning to defeat you, you better be careful. He was Defense Minister. I said, what do I do? He said, tell PV Saab to send me as observer, I will come and sit there, I will manage the election. So, I looked at him, there were 2 seats, Satyanarayana Swami and me. So, I went to PV Saab and I said, Saab, can you please send Mr. Sharad Pawar? Hey, what are you talking as if he's going as observer to Karnataka? I said, sir, if you send him, he'll go. So, you know the way he used to pout? He said, you know more than me, he said. I said, no, sir, we have talked to him. He said, he'll go. I said, yes. So, he nominated him. He came, stayed in Karnataka for 10 days in the army base playing golf, keeping track of all that was happening, and saw us through. That was Sharad Pawar came and managed the election. Nobody can beat Sharad Pawar at the game. After that, I went to the Lok Sabha. I contested Lok Sabha. First election I lost. I didn't have enough money. I didn't have the capacity to organize because I hadn't really fought the local Karwar, my father-in-law's constituency. In spite of everything, I lost. But the day after the results, I went back to the constituency. I went to every panchayat, thanked those who had voted for me. I said, I must have done something wrong that so many didn't vote for me. But I went to every panchayat, thanking people and telling them that I will continue to work for them. That created tremendous sympathy. They said, vote dene ke baad koi shakal nahi dikhata hai, ye bichari harne ke baad aa rahi hai roz. So they would give me tea, they would make me eat in their houses, they would make me stay. I became like an orphan who had been adopted. So the next election, luckily for me, within 13 months, the government fell, Vajpayee's government fell, and there were elections again, which we never imagined. I fought that election and I won with very little money. But I had to ask for money. The party gave me something. That election I can tell you today, because they can't disqualify me now. Jute. Everybody is spending crores. I'm telling you, I spent a lot of money. People were sending me 10,000, 15,000, from all over the country they were sending. I won the election with a narrow margin of 16,000 votes. but I got through. Next election, I lost again. After all I did, I took 10,000 crores to North Canada. Development budget from all over, from the World Bank, from the Asian Development Bank, from everywhere around the world I went, I had schemes sanctioned. Nobody had done so much for that constituency. But they defeated me. अरे हमें तो अभी रास्ते तुमने बनाए, हमको किसको चाहिए था, अभी हमको टैक्स देना पड़ता है ज्यादा, इसको पैसा देना पड़ता है, पीने का पानी क्यों लाया हमारे वेल्स से, अभी पीने का पानी को हमको पैसा देना है. You know, that kind of thing. I said, I'll never talk development for you again, go to hell. I said, I'm not contesting again.
What exactly prompted you, ma'am, to come to politics? Do you have any background?
I was the daughter of a judge, but I married into a political family. I met my husband in the student movement when we were both in university. And I entered the Alva household in Delhi, totally raw, no idea or intention of politics. I was a housewife, cooking, cleaning, looking after the house. Never wanted to get out of the house or do anything. But political training to hota hai parivar mein, but no ambition. Then my mother-in-law suddenly died in 69 in her sleep. And then there was pressure from everywhere. Are, you have to follow in your mother-in-law's footsteps. You're in Alva, you are this, you are that. So they made me join the party. 69 I came in. I was just 27. But I became a full-time party worker and then climbed the ladder gradually. Ended up as General Secretary of the party, 10 years a union minister, and 5 years a governor. So there are times when, in spite of all the challenges, you win. And if only money could get you in, then the Tatas, Birlas, and all the businessmen would be running the government. नहीं होता है. कभी कभी तो लोग भी जानते हैं. But some.
When somebody says either money or mental power should be with you, otherwise you won't win. If such is the case, that this is full of comment, training leaders like us to put in disappointment that how would we win? We want to serve the people.
Muscle power is important. Your party cadres have to be tough and not be bullied. पार्टी के लोग तुम्हारे साथ हैं तो कोई नहीं हरा सकते, but half the time it is your own people who stab you in the back and create trouble for you. In my case, my last election, every report from the IB, from everywhere was that I was winning. But a senior leader, you read my book, it's very interesting, not that I'm selling my book, a senior leader of my party put up a Muslim from his constituency against me in the Lok Sabha election and funded him. We begged of him to withdraw. We offered him some money. He says, "Nahi, saab to gussa karenge." So it came out of his mouth. Saab gussa karenge was the boss who had put him on. And he destroyed. I lost by 22,000 votes. And he took away about 14,000 minority votes. So this also happens. There are various, politics is a gamble. But what is important is the capacity to stay, even in defeat. You don't run away if you lose an election. You start working again. But there are many people who come to me, कोई पार्टी में नहीं है, हमको पार्लियामेंट को आना है. You've got to have the backing of a political party. Without it, you cannot organize. I had 1,248 booths. How do I organize them if I don't have the party? You need the party.
My question is that
You are from Maharashtra.
My question is that recently Sarkar said that there is if a very bad what do you know?
Listen, every political party goes through ups and downs, like in our lives. We have all, however successful you are, including Sharad Pawar, has seen ups and downs. Pranab Mukherjee has seen ups and downs when he was out in the wilderness for some years. All of us go through it at one time or the other. The question is, political parties have to reorganize and reorient themselves to meet the new challenges. I just say 77, I was very much at the ICC headquarters when we lost after the emergency. Indira Gandhi lost, Sanjay lost, and everybody had written Mrs. Gandhi's obituary. Abhi khatam ho gayi, jail jayegi, and she will be in the dustbin of history. Those were the headlines. Probably you all were not born in 77, many of you, but we went through it. They sent congressmen to jail. They, did everything they could. Shah Commission was set up every day, public hearings with loudspeakers. And in the night on TV, summary of the day's proceedings, people began after some time to switch off the TV. Ki kya roz Indira Gandhi ki ne ye kiya, Indira Gandhi ne wo kiya. It became counterproductive. And the way they were harassing her all the time, sympathy began to turn to her. कि अरे एक औरत है, इतना काम किया है देश को, ठीक है कुछ गलती हो गई, हम लोगों ने डिफीट किया, अभी छोड़ दीजिए उनको, क्या कर रहे. So within 3 years, the same people whose slogans I have heard outside the courtroom, फांसी दो इंदिरा गांधी को फांसी दो. That's what the lawyers were shouting outside the courts. That same woman, they brought back in that election, and what was the slogan? लाठी गोली खाएंगे, इंदिरा जी को वापस लाएंगे. There was so much infighting in the Janata Party. Babu Jagjivan Ram, Charan Singh, Moraji Desai, their sons fighting. Then, the socialists walked out. Then the BJP, that time was Jansangh, walked out. And they fell. And the people said, yes, sab chhod dijiye, Indira Gandhi ko hi wapas laiye. And she came back with such a huge majority in 80. So Congress party, I'm not saying is at its best. With 44 seats, it's among the lowest you can expect. But did you see the reception in Sonia Gandhi got in UP the other day? In Varanasi, Prime Minister's constituency, the crowds that turned up. See, people begin to see through the other party. Over 3 years, they forget a lot of the past. What really defeated the Congress in the last election was its allies. The DMK, the corruption, the 2G scam, and some, what is it called, coal scam. It was only that was before the people's minds. But now they are seeing other issues coming up. They are getting worried about certain other trends that they are seeing. So when the next election comes, it's the people. I always say election is an emotional connect with the voter. One slogan of Indira Gandhi when she was down and out was in 71. Garibi Hatao. They were saying Indira Hatao. That was a slogan all over the country. She just replied, Tum to Indira ko hatao, par main to garibi hatane ko kari. And the people swung to her. Just that Bangladesh war swept her back to power, in 4 years. So there are events beyond you sometimes, a slogan, a situation. It is all about how you connect with the voter. It's an emotional response of the people to an individual or to a party. But I tell you, I have said in the Congress repeatedly, because I have always been speaking openly, I have said, you have to give more responsibility to state leaders. Allow them to function. Allow them to emerge. It cannot permanently be a center-centric, high command-centric decision-making process. You sit in Delhi in air-conditioned rooms. How do you know what is happening in the tribal area of Maharashtra? How do you know what's happening with the farmers in Karnataka or with police suicides in Karnataka? Why are the police angry? What is it that's upsetting them? See, there are various things which only local people understand. The Northeast disconnect. I mean, very few people understand. I've got 2 chapters on the Northeast. I have looked after the Northeast from 74 to 2009. I know every leader there. I have worked with them. I've met the underground. And yet, I'm telling you, even today, you are not able to solve the Naga problem. You are not able to connect with the people. That is the problem. Unless you can connect, the universities are in turmoil today. Unless you can connect with the young, I'm telling you, no political party can survive, because 18-year-olds have become voters thanks to Rajiv Gandhi. Their perceptions are different, their vision is different, their ambitions are different. They are looking for jobs, they are looking for development, they are looking for a corruption-free government apparatus. They are looking for improving the quality of life for them and their children and their families. So these are the issues which fire the minds of young people. And they are your voters. 65% of your population is under the age of 45. So you can see what an impact young people have. And if you alienate the universities, the young people, Gorakhpur University, Andhra mein hua, abhi JNU mein hua, abhi kahin hua. You know, the universities are in turmoil. And what is it? You keep charging them with sedition if they protest. If you raise a slogan, you are locked up. That fellow in Gujarat asked for reservations for the Patels. 11 months he's in jail for sedition. You cannot suppress, this is what I was saying, suppress the voice of people who are angry, who are frustrated, or who are demanding justice. That's the Dalits. The Dalit agitation cannot be contained unless you come to terms with the existing condition of the Dalits and find answers. How long are the scavengers going to be cleaning your toilets? And why should the so-called untouchables be cleaning dead animals, eating the flesh of dead animals, and then get beaten up for it? I mean, what is it? And please remember that you are destroying the livelihoods of people. They earn their money by clearing carcasses. Because leather, you know, they skin the leather and send it to the tanneries. And they earn from the leather, which only they know how to, without tearing it, to take it into big pieces. It is their hereditary business. The tanneries are closing down. Someone was telling me, he says, I have a huge shoe factory, Mrs. Alva, no supplies from tanneries. So you are destroying the whole cycle of livelihoods for the Dalits, tanneries run by the Muslims, and the factories which make shoes and leather items which you export. India was one of the largest exporter of leather. And I'll tell you one more thing. Everyone is talking about Goraksha. Just Google and find out. We are, I think, the first or the second largest exporter of beef in the world. We are exporting. And the 6 largest export houses which export, 4 are of caste Hindus. Exporters. And here you say, don't touch the cow. It is the destruction of the livelihoods of the Dalits and the Muslims, if you look at it. So how can you have an inclusive society and a just economy when you're one by one excluding sections from the mainstream of economic development? Where will they go? Aro tumko to, we are not talking about cow meat, they're talking even of buffaloes and other things which are not considered holy. Even those, if you are found with, you are being beaten up and you are being attacked. The poor people eat that meat. It's not the cow. There's a joke told, not a joke, it's what happened, that Mr. Vajpayee, in his earlier days, was in the UN dining room. He used to go to the United Nations every year, enjoying a beef steak, quietly in the dining room having his lunch. When Subramaniam Swamy walked in, and Subramaniam Swamy has always been after him. So Subramaniam Swamy saw him and said, "Acha, desh mein go raksha, UN mein go khana." He said to him. And you know, Vajpayee had such a sense of humor. अरे हिंदुस्तान में गो रक्षा गो माता है, अमेरिकी गाय कोई गो माता है क्या? I am not eating the Indian cow who's my mother. This is American grown cow in some farm. ये तो हिंदुस्तानी गाय नहीं है. So when you go abroad, you are eating other people's cows. That's okay. So, you know, there is a certain hypocrisy in what we do, which we must understand. My 3 daughters-in-law are Hindus. One is a Tamil Brahmin, one is a Rajput, and one is a Kurk from Kurk. My youngest daughter-in-law is a Tamil Brahmin, in whose house a mother will not cook anything other than vegetarian food. She was educated in London, here, there. She met my son, they're married. Her son comes to my house one day and said, "My mama doesn't cook everything for me." You know what he wants? He wants pork chops. Tamil Brahmin. I said, "Your grandmother will kill me." He says, "No, but I like it. I went to a party yesterday and they were so good. But my mother won't cook. She doesn't cook." अरे आज के बच्चे, third generation, to them it doesn't matter what they are eating. They are going. So why are we killing each other? To us, the human being is less important than the cow or an animal. Our priorities have to come right. Poor people eat something, live on it. How can you deny them what they are used to? We come from the coast. We eat fish. You don't give us fish and we will starve in some time. You know, people go to the rivers, go to the seashore. They themselves fish. They bring every day, they eat some fish. They can't afford chicken or mutton or anything else. तो वो तुम बोलो फिशिंग बंद करो, क्या करेंगे? There has to be, that's why I said we have to restore sanity in decision making. Yes. Yeah.
What the reforms you suggest that this local self-government system? Do I really want our grassroots?
I'll give you some answer, but I was going to challenge you all to make a study, go to some panchayats on your tours, sit with the local people and ask them how their panchayats are working. And you should really prepare a research paper from here on the significance of grassroots democracy. I'll have a lecture on this later. I've studied a lot of research papers, but I tell you two things. Everybody talks about, what is this called? Pati Panchayat. When only the patis were sitting, nobody minded. सब मर्द बैठते थे, डिसीजन लेते थे, सब कुछ थे. अब ये महिलाएं आई तो जल रहे हैं. अरे ये महिला आई है, फिर भी उसका पति, अगर पति होता मेंबर तो क्या बोलते आप? अच्छा इतना अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं. वो तो कभी आया. But I'll tell you, there are independent studies. Please go through them. These are rare cases. The first time, women came out, literally of the parda, after thousands of years. They didn't know the meaning of power. They didn't know the meaning of budgets. They didn't know the meaning of managing, schemes. And naturally, the husbands or others were guiding, helping, and even taking decisions. But that has changed. I can tell you, women now have become, don't think we women have no brain. Okay? We also learn from experience. It is the woman who manages the household, the money. Occasionally, we also pinch some money from our husbands' pockets when we need something, when they don't give us money. I used to do it as a young housewife. I used to take out some money now and then, which I needed. Where women have come out. My daughter, who's in the media, prepared a beautiful reel on women who have made a change in the panchayats, chairman, how they have fought local goons and discrimination and become so successful in the village that they are being elected even from general seats because they have won the confidence of the people. There may be exceptions. I'm not saying no here and there, but even Muslim women have come out and are taking charge. I tell you, in my constituency, I brought a lot of money to train women in the panchayats. I used to sit for 3 days in the camp, and we used to have in the evening, mock sessions of a panchayat. This is the dispute. How will you solve it? Put one of them in the chair. This is the opposition. This is the members in power, majority. And they would fight it out about a tap or, putting lights on the streets, where they should be put, what should be done. And, we started watching them and telling them that the chairman decide now, thing. So they got political training. So one session, they told me, Madam, in Kannada, they never call us to meetings. अब यहाँ तुम चर्चा करवाती है, हमको meeting में ही नहीं बुलाते हैं. And then they send the book home for a thumb impression. Minutes of the meeting, they have to show majority. They send the book with the clerk for their fingerprints to show that, they have also approved. So they said, we don't even go and they're making us put our thumb impression. I said, you're fools, you're elected representatives. Why do you sign? They shout at us and this and that. I said, you were elected to be afraid? Have the guts to say no? Oh, they don't listen, madam. I said, the next time the book comes, tear that page and send it back. I told them, and they all got together. Next time the book came, they tore the page of the meeting and sent the book back. There was a huge furor. It came in the press. Women have torn the minute book of the panchayat. So they met the meeting and asked, "Ye kya kiya?" Madam ne bola. Madam MP ne bola, फाड़ के भेजो अगर तुमको नहीं बुलाते मीटिंग में. Headlines in the papers, Mrs. Alva instigates, panchayat women to revolt. Both were. So press asked me, I said, yes. Is it right? Do you ever write that these women are being made to sign registers without attending meetings? It stopped from that day. I said, if you send it again, I'll tell them to tear it again. They are elected. They have a right to attend. They have a right to speak. They are 33%. How can you ignore them? So you see, women now, and after the camp, they would say, Madam, we never knew we had this power. We never knew we could sanction this, sanction that. They don't tell them. बोलते ही नहीं है. The clerk joins hands with the male mafia to corner everything. So they have to be educated and they have to be told their rights. And see how beautifully that film was shown in New York and in Washington. I took a session for 3 hours on panchayats in India. They had invited me. They had given me the Global Leadership Award in Washington, and they wanted me specially to speak on Indian panchayats. So, you know, around the world, people are looking at our panchayat system and saying, how have you all managed it? 1.5 million women, just imagine, more than the population of many countries, are today in elected bodies. They have come out of their homes, and first the mothers-in-law, I have heard in the villages grumble, "Ye kya hai, meri bahu jaake meeting mein baithti hai mardon ke saath pure din. है सब कुछ फैशन करके मुझे घर में पकाना है, बच्चों को देखना है, ये मीटिंग में जाती है." Today, you know what is happening? The mothers-in-law are telling the daughter-in-law, उनकी बहू देखो सब कुछ करके स्टेज पे बैठती है, तुम क्या घर में बैठी हो, जाओ तुम भी कुछ करो. They are jealous that other daughters-in-law are sitting on the stage when the minister comes. So you see, there is thinking change. It doesn't happen in 1 year or 2 years. You have to give women the time and the patience to bring them out. You have suppressed them. The men have suppressed them all this time. And now you say miracles. How can miracles come overnight? How many, they keep saying, ये पंचायत की महिलाएं क्या करती हैं, मौनी बाबी हैं, you know, कुछ कर, मैंने बोला पार्लियामेंट में कितने मौने बाबू बैठे हैं करके पहले देखो, मुंह नहीं खोलते हैं. I've been in parliament 30 years. The amount I have talked and fought and got bills passed, they just come and sign the register, sit in central hall, पान खाते हैं, गपशप मारते हैं, घर जाते हैं, और बहुत बड़े एमपीज हैं. Therefore, let us not pass judgment on these illiterate women, many of them coming out for the first time. They are facing the men at home, they are facing the mother-in-law at home, they are facing social neglect, and yet, though uneducated, they are doing scheduled caste women. Jeep पे बैठ के आते हैं, अच्छे तरह से, how well they dress. I told them, बस मुझसे अच्छा आप साड़ियाँ पहन के आती हैं मीटिंग में. I used to go in khadi white. They will come in all those nylon saris with flowers in their hair, all dressed up for the meeting. So you see, they also know now that they have a place. And all independent reports are saying, this is the second thing, that where women have come in the panchayats, taken charge, the human face of development has begun to emerge. They are asking for toilets. They are asking for drinking water. They are asking for Anganwadis and for the, what's it called, Anganwadi worker to be appointed. They want the doctor coming to the clinic, the nurse to be appointed. See, and that's making a change in the countryside. And they are coming up, they are coming wanting to become MLAs, they are wanting to become, you know, परसों आए थे मेरे कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट से, हमको कोई सरकारी कॉर्पोरेशन का चेयरमैन बना दो मैडम. They want to become chairman of corporations, public sector corporations. See the ambitions, they know. So the male bastion is gradually making way for women to come in. We have today in the country 5 women chief ministers. Bengal, I mean, it's not a small state. Tamil Nadu, Jammu Kashmir, the most troubled state. Rajasthan, you had Gujarat, you had Sheila Dixit in Delhi, and probably a Mayawati coming in UP. I mean, women are coming, are being accepted in their own right. 5 political parties today in the country, political parties are headed by women. Congress, AIDMK, Mamata Banerjee's, PDP, Mayawati's, and one more. There are 6 parties today which are headed by women. Men have to go to them for their seats. So things are changing. We had a prime minister for 16 years, woman. We had a president. Take your time. It's only 5 o'clock. They have one more hour. No, I'm okay. I have no problem. दो चीज है, मैंने पहले बोला, you have to be in a political party. We think that, you know, you can just come in your, it is not possible, because ours is a political party based system, electoral system. वो सिंबल भी पार्टी का होता है, इंडिपेंडेंट हो तो कोई नहीं जानते हैं, और वो सपोर्ट सिस्टम और बेस जो जरूरत है वो नहीं मिलेगी without a political party. Secondly, more than money, you need patience. एक दिन में काम होने वाला नहीं. I was denied a ticket 3 times. Assembly को reject किया, क्या तुम्हारे MLC का reject किया मुझे. पर इंदिरा जी ने, she had heard me speak at a big meeting in the Glass House in Bangalore on the backward classes and the weaker sections. So she was very impressed. She says, this girl has a heart in the right place. Not the head, but the heart. तो चांस आता है, पर एक बार 2 बार टिकट नहीं मिला तो जाके दुकान बंद करके घर में बैठना ठीक नहीं. You have to have patience. You will emerge, and you have to start playing leadership roles on a small scale in your own area, in your own environment. You can take up environment issues. You can take up garbage issues. You can take up corruption issues sometimes. कि ये क्यों हो रहा है? See, you have to be heard, you have to be seen, and you have to be respected. गुंडागिरी से काम नहीं चलता है. You have to create a group with you, and you have to have patience. देखिए हम तो कितने करोड़ 1.2 बिलियन है देश में पॉपुलेशन. अच्छा, सीट हैं पार्लियामेंट में 524. तो कहीं कहीं तो लक, आई वाज स्लीपिंग एट होम. मैंने अप्लाई भी नहीं किया था, मुझे फोन आया कि तुम्हारा नाम, उन दिनों में टीवी नहीं था, टिकर पे आया है और राज्यसभा. आई थॉट दे वे प्रैक्टिकल जॉब आएगा, रात को मुझे क्यों उठा के इस तरह से तमाशा कर रहे हैं. बोला कि नहीं, आपका नाम पहला नाम है. I had never applied. I never wanted to go to Delhi at that age. At 32, I went to Rajya Sabha. So, sometime you are noticed, sometime you are picked up, sometime you are asked to do something and you impress. So that is what you have to start. And as I said, build your local leadership through the Jilla Panchayat, through the local Panchayat, take up issues. I know somebody mentioned this. MLAs बहुत डरते हैं जिला पंचायत मेंबर्स से, क्योंकि नेक्स्ट जनरेशन उनका कंपटीशन है, तो उनको दबाने की बहुत कोशिश करते हैं. जिला पंचायत के मेंबर्स को MLA पूरी तरीके से खत्म करने की कोशिश करता है, और उधर लोकल लोग पंचायत वाले आगे आएंगे करके जिला पंचायत वाला डरता है. सो यू नो इंडियन क्रैब की स्टोरी सुनी है ना. वो इंडियन क्रैब एक्सपोर्ट करते हैं ना, बास्केट में डालते हैं, उसका कवर नहीं डालते हैं, कभी खुला ही रखते हैं. तो बोले कि ये एक ही क्रैब है, इसका तो वेरी डेंजरस व्हेन यू आर एक्सपोर्टिंग विदाउट कवरिंग देम. व्हाई डू यू एक्सपोर्ट? दे से बिकॉज दे विल नेवर रीच द टॉप. दे आर इंडियन क्रैब्स. मोमेंट वन क्लाइम्स अ लिटिल, द अदर पुल्स इट डाउन. तो उनको तो कवर करने की जरूरत ही नहीं है. दे आर इंडियन क्रैब्स. सो पॉलिटिशियंस इन इंडिया इंडियन क्रैब्स. एक पांव ऊपर रखो तो 3 नीचे खींचेंगे, और महिलाओं को तो बहुत कुछ नहीं है तो अरे उनका तो उनके बारे में बहुत बातें होती है, उनके कैरेक्टर के बारे में बहुत सुना है। अरे भैया कैरेक्टर के बारे में क्या सुना है? I give you a real example. Okay, I'll tell you. Sit down. I was shocked. You know, पूर्वी मुखर्जी थी, जनरल सेक्रेटरी हमारी पार्टी के बंगाल से, big tough woman and very powerful. तो मैं उनको असिस्ट कर रही थी as joint secretary of the AICC when I was early starting. तो एक दिन पार्लियामेंट्री बोर्ड का मीटिंग था और उन दिनों में हमारे पूरे नीचे बैठते थे, सफेद गद्दी, उसमें वो बोल्स्टर डाल के बैठते थे। पूरे men were sitting. There was one lady, पूर्वी मुखर्जी, me. I was not talking. I was assisting her. Selection of candidates for Rajya Sabha. तो एक महिला का नाम आया, शेड्यूल कास्ट की थी। तो एक ने दूसरे को देखा, एक ने दूसरे को देखा, मुझे कुछ पता नहीं था, I was very new. So then a lady, one lady was sitting there. She says, no, I don't think it is advisable. इनके बारे में उनके बहुत कुछ है. So I looked, I was wondering what this was. So men nodded. हाँ, ये तो बहुत हो रहा है, बहुत सुना है. You know, everybody nodded. क्या कुछ है, क्या है? क्या वो, is she ugly? Is she stupid? What is it? नहीं, वो reputation के बारे में कुछ सुना है. Purvi Mukherjee stood up. They were all sitting on the ground. She stood like this. She says, you dare talk about the character of a young woman? She just stood like this. And they all looked at her. She said, shall I tell you here what I know about each one of you? About your characters? What you all are up to? Shall I start one by one? Hi Bhagwan. तो सब चुप हो गए हैं और बोले कि छोड़िए दीदी, इतना क्यों गुस्सा करती हो? नहीं, how dare you talk about a young woman like this? बस हो गया, सीट अप्रूव हो गई. It's so easy to knock somebody out कि वो ऐसी है, वो वैसी है. अरे, we women have to face a lot of nonsense, but we survive. I've been in politics for 45 years. किसी ने एक शब्द नहीं बोला. बोलते तो मैं कन्फ्रंट करती कि क्या हुआ है. फिर भी मुझे डिफीट करने की कोशिश की, बहुत की. But life goes on. रियो ओलंपिक्स को कितने गए? 425. 2 महिलाएं निकली. अभी आएंगे सब मंत्री उनके असिस्टेंट सब गए. एक मंत्री के साथ 15-20 एंटोराज. क्यों? टू चीयर द एथलीट्स. क्या चीयर किया भैया? सब हार के भाग के आए. तो चलता है. One election and you see how many are with you and how many are against you. Best test उस टाइम में होता है. My election, we talk so much about secularism. I had a BJP candidate against me who had, you know, when I fought, I used to say, I am 38 and the candidate, my opponent, has 38 criminal cases against him. Registered criminal cases, not convicted. एक दिन खड़े होके बोले कि तब तो सेडिशन नहीं था. पुलिसमैन तुमको अरेस्ट करेंगे ना, हाथ काट के मेरे पास ले आओ. Those kind of speeches. Okay? गुंडागिरी, attacking churches, attacking thing. मुसलमान के वोट की जरूरत नहीं है, उनके बिना मैं जीतूंगा. You know, all sorts of inflammatory speeches. And he won. He came up. My point is that in that election, postcards were sent out. Postcards. A vote for Alva is a vote for Rome. A vote for BJP is a vote for Ram. बस पूरे कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसी में कोई नाम नहीं, कुछ नहीं, पोस्ट. हो गया क्या? मैं रोम में बैठी हूँ क्या? आई एम ए कैथलिक, बट दैट वाज द प्रोपेगेंडा. चलता है इलेक्शंस में, पता नहीं क्या निकालते हैं, क्या बोलते हैं. And how many election petitions can you fight? I could have put that before the election commission. क्या प्रूव करें, किसने भेजा? Yeah.
What is wrong with the person whether he or she is intolerant? And even after 70 years of independence, if we are still enduring such kind of inhumane atrocities, then what is the use of such kind of independence?
Famous words of Mahatma Gandhi. Freedom has no meaning unless there is freedom from poverty and from hunger and from discrimination. See, I mean, I keep asking, what difference does it make to a Dalit child when he goes to a nursery? I mean, to that Anganwadi. I have seen with my eyes as governor in Rajasthan. Dalit children made to sit on the veranda outside the Anganwadi, not inside. When food is given, those children are served first. The leftover is given to those children. Today, I've seen it with my own eyes. And when I asked, they said, "नहीं नहीं वो ऐसे ही बैठे थे आज मेरे लिए बाहर बैठे थे." I'm saying, what does freedom mean to these people who are denied basic human dignity and human rights? I mean, I ask that same question. I've seen this happening before my eyes. And this is something which I am angry about. So I can imagine how angry they are. My children are in the media. They made a documentary some years ago in UP. A day in the life of a Harijan girl, 8-year-old. There is no, the girl never speaks. But her life from morning, she has to go from house to house with a bowl begging for food and stand outside. Because her mother goes to work, and that time there was no even midday meal scheme. If a Harijan is employed, woman as a cook, the children are withdrawn from the afternoon meal because Harijan is cooking it. Happened in many states. In Karnataka, they said if you don't want to eat, go home, but we will not dismiss the Harijan. The whole story of her life, of the whole day. Then she goes getting cow dung to make cow dung cakes for her mother to come home in the evening and make some roti. Things like this. And then there's only one question at the end. तुम बड़ी होके क्या बनना चाहती हो? Filthy face, her hair not combed, clothes. She looks into the camera with those big eyes. I've never forgotten it because I shed tears. And she says, "मैं इंसान बनना चाहती हूँ." That was her reply. I mean, this is a child of 10, 9 or 10. So what does freedom mean to her or to thousands of other children like this? Today in Hyderabad, an orphanage has been raided, a bogus orphanage where children, illegal, not registered, children are picked up, brought to orphanage, made to beg the whole day so that the man collects money in the evening. And they are starved, the children. So, inhuman things are happening all around. And therefore, the Dalit voice now is rising. They're not going to take it for very long. You will have violence on your hands if you don't find answers. This is my answer.
As you have been governor of Rajasthan, what do you want to say about the politics as well as political parties of Rajasthan?
भाई दोनों दोस्त हैं, कांग्रेस में थी पहले, वसुंधरा मेरी तो पुरानी दोस्त है, फ्रॉम माय डेज इन पार्लियामेंट साथ में थे हम लोग. I have dealt with both. Let me tell you honestly, basically all political parties are the same. मैं बोलती हूँ, except maybe the extreme left, whose commitment and whose determination and whose capacity to take on the fight is unbelievable. Elections, they will go door to door. They will not take a pie from their party. They don't get. They will go on cycles and they will campaign. हमारे लोग रोज आके आज तो गांधी जी का एक तस्वीर दे दीजिए, 500 रुपये नोट with Gandhi on it. 100 रुपये से नहीं जाएंगे, 500 देना है. गाड़ी के बिना हिलेंगे नहीं. But ultimately the human resource is the same. They come from the same backgrounds. They have the same interests. पैसे कमाओ, सीट जीतो, ये करो, वो करो. When it suits them, behind the scenes, पर्दे के पीछे सब हाथ मिलाते हैं. They are together. Women's reservation bill, you ask the men, सबका understanding है. You need minimum 50% of those present and voting. वो दिन disappear हो जाते हैं, कोई है ही नहीं, कोरम नहीं. उसी दिन कोई बीमार हुआ, बच्चा का ऑपरेशन हुआ, दादी माँ मरी और कुछ हुआ. So, political parties, the agenda that is announced might differ. But basically, I've seen the function. वो JDS हमारे स्टेट में, बीजेपी जब सूट होता है अलायंस होता है, दूसरे दिन बीजेपी को एक्यूज करेगा वो देवेगौड़ा की वो ये हैं वो हैं सब हैं, और जब कोई पंचायत का लीडरशिप और चेयरमैन का इलेक्शन है तब हाथ जोड़ के एक हो जाते हैं. So I really personally don't see much of a difference. यहाँ से उस पार्टी में जाते हैं, उधर टिकट मिलती है, उधर जीतता है, हार गया तो और एक पार्टी में जाता है. So there really isn't that moral fiber to say कि these are my principles. गोरक्षा, इतने तुम्हारे गौशाला राजस्थान में बनाए, सरकार इतना पैसा दे रहा है और रोज 15-20 गाय मर रहे हैं, पानी नहीं दे रहे हैं, खाना नहीं दे रहे हैं. गोरक्षक के नाम से बहुत बड़े खोल दिए. Now she has been asked to explain by the BJP High Command why cows are dying. Now the Chief Minister must go to the Goshala and see why are cows dying. Not why children are dying in the deserts of Rajasthan, but why cows are dying in Goshalas. These are our priorities. And they are saying old cows are sent here, sick cows are sent here, unwanted cows are sent here. They come here and die and we are blamed. तो गाय को मरना भी नहीं, क्या करें? किस स्टेट से हैं आप? मध्य प्रदेश.
रीजन के लिए ज्यादा जो अभी घटनाएं घट रही है रीजन को लेकर, सुरक्षा या और भी हर कम्युनिटी में बनी हुई, क्या लोग अभी कुछ सालों से ज्यादा सीरियस हो गए या हो गए?
इंसिडेंट्स बढ़ रहे हैं. हरिजन एट्रोसिटीज मेरे नहीं तो क्राइम ब्यूरो के हैं, आर राइजिंग बाय 2.8% every year. Increase overall. And the worst states, according to them, at the moment are Goa, Gujarat, Rajasthan, and I think Madhya Pradesh. I mean, not that I'm saying it, but all four are BJP run states. And there is a clash somewhere of the whole concept of Dalit versus the upper caste. They are not prepared to accept the Dalits moving up, upward mobility, which education, reservations, and other government facilities is providing them. So that is why the clash, it's a clash of interest. And when change comes, you know, it's a good sign. That means change is coming. The Dalits are fighting back. But the atrocities don't get punished. The atrocities are just allowed to happen. I was in Rajasthan in a village. You know, those women came wailing to me. They were given land by the government, you know, under that Harijan rehabilitation program. And the upper caste, 4 families, kabza kiya wo land ka. So they went and filed a police complaint. The police took no action. When these two men were walking to their land, to the field, do you know they brought the tractor and went over their legs? They fell down and they went over their legs up and down till their legs were crushed and they couldn't walk. Because they fought for their land. And those women came and they said they can't even move. They have broken their legs to bits. What do you do? And the police don't act. And the politicians, you know, the upper caste politicians don't let the police act. So I think we are going through a phase. Now, that's why I said these are challenges. You're going to go through violence. You're going to go through bloodshed. And therefore it is for the leadership. प्रधानमंत्री ने परसों बहुत अच्छी तरह से बोला, रात को गुंडागिरी और डकैती, दिन में गोरक्षण. All these gundas are taking advantage of these new concepts and harassing the people, and the administration does nothing. He says so many things all the time.
Kashmir is India occupied Kashmir.
POK.
Yeah, so Kashmir means Pakistan has not occupied it. We have occupied it.
When did he say that?
They say Pakistan occupied Kashmir and India occupied Kashmir.
Pagal hai.
Those
Slip.
of tongue.
They are talking about, I mean, there are groups internationally who are talking about both vacating Kashmir and making Kashmir an independent identity guaranteed by both Pakistan, India and the international community, so that they may run their own affairs. Like Bhutan, for instance. Foreign affairs, you know, won't be theirs, defense won't be theirs, and whatever else it is that international relations and so on will not be theirs. But their internal affairs, let them be, like, you know, nobody ever imagined East and West Germany would unite. I knew the ambassador of East Germany so well. He says he told me, the international community will never allow Germany to be united again because they're afraid of a united Germany. Because, you know, they are very intelligent, hardworking, disciplined, and they had caused the world wars before, so they didn't want them to unite. But it happened. The people pulled down the wall and they united. I was, you know, please don't quote me. I'm not saying it today. When I was in the university, there was an essay competition. The solution to the Kashmir issue by the Rotary Club. I was very active in debates, this and that. So I wrote an article which got the first prize. And I said at that time, the Kashmiris have a right to live their own lives. Troops should withdraw from both sides. They should unite. And they should run their own affairs with both India and Pakistan, guaranteeing their security and their independence. And I won the first prize. And that's exactly what Digvijay Singh has said yesterday. So I'm not saying it, I mean, I'm not saying anything now. But I believe that this killing of Kashmiris must end on both sides. Whose prestige is it that they are dying for? What are they dying for? Pellets, killing, shooting, and the poor policemen, Kashmiri policemen, are saying we are the greatest sufferers because they target them and their families. And they say we are afraid to go home because they will identify our homes and kill our families, kidnap our daughters. Nobody wants it. But how many years are you going to see this bleeding of the Kashmiri people? The Pandits have lost their homes. The Kashmiris are eternally targeted by security forces or by the so-called terrorists from across the border, or from violent groups, or from within. There must be something. I tell you just 1 minute this time. I tell you, I was Minister for Personnel, okay? And there was a group of 2 or 3 Kashmiri youth who were hanging outside my gate. And you know what security people are? They kept suspecting them कि ये तो कुछ करने आए हैं madam. I was in charge of CBI, security, everything. One day when I was coming back, I saw these 3 fellows who tried to stop my car. My security chaps jumped up. I said, don't do anything. I want to talk to them. I knew they were Kashmiris when I saw them. Young boys. So I came in and I said, बुलाओ उनको अंदर. नहीं मैडम, ये 3 दिन से यहाँ हैं, हम तो अंदर आने नहीं देंगे. I said, मैं बोल रही हूँ अंदर आने दो. ये मेरे बच्चे के जैसे हैं, बुलाओ दफ्तर में, चाय मंगाओ, कुछ खाने को मंगाओ. They came. And they said, you know, मैडम, 1 हफ्ते से हम दिल्ली आए हैं, कोई हमसे नहीं मिल रहा. आपने पहले बार हमको बुला के बिठाया, you know, they literally had tears. I said, क्या हुआ? क्यों आए आप? Then they told me the story. You know, they had competitive selection exams for some jobs in the government. And some number 30 odd had cleared the test and had been interviewed. Their names had been published outside the State Public Service Commission office. अच्छा, उनके नाम सब हैं, they brought a copy. They will not give them appointment letters. They are demanding 10,000 from each of them to get an appointment letter after passing the exam and being selected. Sir, हमारे पास पैसे नहीं हैं. हम किसी से पैसे लेके ट्रेन से आए हैं, वापस जाने को पैसा नहीं है, खाने को पैसा नहीं. इतने साल से हम नौकरी के लिए बैठे हैं, 2 साल के अंदर हम एज बार हो जाएंगे. They are demanding 10,000 from each one of us. How do we pay them? You know, they were literally in tears. I was so angry. No, it was not a thing, it was postal department, PNT department में कोई काम दफ्तर. I said, बैठिए. I rang up the PNT minister, communication minister. I gave them tea. I said, you stay, I will talk. And I said, I want one of your staff to come here now to my house. I was Minister for Personnel. So he said, I said, no, there's a serious problem and I want you to send me. So within half an hour, somebody came. I said, you are PMT so-and-so. Listen to their story. So they gave the list. They told their whole story. And I said, now what are you going to do? He said, this is very shocking. I said, yes, shocking to me also. But these boys will not go back without appointment letters. It is PNT department, it's an all India department. And if your local people are harassed, you will send an officer with them. You will pay for their train tickets and take them back. And I'm going to, from my own discretionary fund, give them something for their expenses. You will go to Kashmir with them and see that those 30 letters are issued. Otherwise, I'm going to raise this issue in Parliament as a minister. And I will shame you. मैंने सीधा बोला. So, नहीं, madam, हम sort it out करेंगे. Then the minister rang me up in the night. I said, I want this done tonight. You send your responsible officer with these boys, buy their tickets and take them back. And they did it. And they got their letters. See, this is the anger of the Kashmiri youth. कि जस्टिस नहीं मिल रहा है, दिल्ली आएंगे तो कोई सुनता नहीं है, अंदर गेट के अंदर नहीं छोड़ते हैं, हमको टेररिस्ट बोलते हैं. I went to Kashmir. I was chairman of the parliamentary committee on the empowerment of women for 5 years. First time I took the committee to Kashmir. I said, that's part of India, chalo. They were terrified, the Kashmir administration. नहीं, closed door meeting. ऐसा नहीं, closed door meeting नहीं होगा. Closed door meeting आपसे बाद में बात करेंगे. I want to go to the villages. I want to meet Kashmiri women in their homes. So they arranged. They were terrified. There were police all around. You know, a center, top floor, where women make Kashmiri embroidered shawls. लड़कियां हैं सब. तो हम 6-8 महिलाएं थी. We climbed the stairs. We went up. मैडम आप अंदर नहीं जाइए, उनको तो गेस्ट हाउस में बुलाएंगे. I said नहीं, हम जाएंगे. My God, there were men on the trees. There were people. They were so excited कि पहले बार एक कमेटी हमारे गांव में आई. They put a tent. I said we will have food with them. We will sit here. We will talk to them. खाना plates में खिलाया upstairs उनके साथ. Those girls couldn't believe that somebody from Delhi had come to listen to them. We talked to them. We bought some shawls from their center. सब कुछ करके meeting करके वापस आए. I went to 2 or 3 areas. In the evening, when we were in Srinagar, I said, I'm going to the market. Everybody was scared, but my friend from Karnataka, Bimba Raikar, she said, I will go with you. I told these fellows, I don't want a security man with me. I don't want hui cars. Give me an ordinary car. I'm going as a tourist, not as MP or anybody. Nobody knows me in Kashmir. We want to go and we will walk around, talk to people and come. So she said, I will also come. We went to 1 or 2 shops. We picked up some dry fruit, this, that and the other. And we said, we'll keep it here. We want to see some saris, you know, those embroidered saris. We'll come back here. They said, yahan rakhiye, wapas aiye. Without any security, we went. When we came back to that shop, there were about 25 people in the shop. So we both got quite frightened. We said, kya ho gaya? So we came, we said, aiye. That shopkeeper had recognized me and had phoned all those shopkeepers. दिल्ली से मार्गरेट आल्वा जी आई हैं, हम टेलीविजन पे देखते हैं, मेरे दुकान में हैं, आइए चाय पिलाएंगे. They had ordered tea, Kashmiri tea, some dry fruit and something for us, and we're waiting to meet us. So they said, आपके स्वागत में आए हैं हम लोग. आप तो एक शेरनी है जो हमारे बीच में बंदूक के बिना आई है. हमारे एमएलएस, हमारे मंत्री, हमारे एमपीज वोट को मांगने के लिए भी 3-4 बंदूक वाले लेके आते हैं. And then one of them showed me his fingers blown off from here. He says, I was collecting honey from the trees. और मैं पेड़ पे चढ़ा था, कुछ कर रहा था. Security forces ने बंदूक लगाया कि मैं terrorist हूँ. You know, in the forest he was taking honey. He lost all his 4 fingers. Another fellow showed me wounds in his leg. You know, from guns. They said, Madam, जहाँ भी जाते हैं बंदूक मारते हैं. हम कहाँ जाएंगे? एक आई थी सोनिया गांधी, जो दाल लेक में अकेली एक महिला के साथ एक बंदूक वाले के बिना पूरे 1 घंटा दाल लेक में घूम के आई. हम लोगों ने बोला, जय हो सोनिया जी, बंदूक के बिना हमारे दाल लेक में आ गई. दूसरी हैं आप, जो बंदूक के बिना हमारे दुकानों में आए. Do you know they wouldn't take money for the dry fruit we had bought? They wouldn't take money for the 2 bags we had bought. सिर्फ पैसे आपसे नहीं लेंगे. आपने हमारी आज इज्जत की, भरोसा दिखाया. This is what the Kashmiris are asking for a little love and trust in them. हम सब terrorists बने हैं, madam. So this is what I'm saying. This is where things go wrong. Lack of communication, lack of mutual trust, and a sense of doubt in the other Indian. अरे तुम प्यार नहीं दिखाएंगे, पूरे दिन पेलेट्स मारेंगे, लड़कों को तो शूट करेंगे, कैसे ट्रस्ट बनेगा? I have sat for hours with the underground Nagas. They have walked into my home. They put me under Z category. And I was there saying, you are a very dangerous person, madam. आपको protect करना बहुत मुश्किल है. I said, कोई कुछ नहीं करेगा मुझे. प्यार से आ रहे हैं मेरे घर में. I suppose Nagas would come. I would give them cake and I would give them things to eat. And those Naga MPs and all used to love to come. My husband used to, you know, they love to have a drink in the night. और हमारे कांग्रेस वालों को दिल्ली में कोई कुछ नहीं देते हैं. He used to tell them, go sit inside, here is a bottle of whiskey, enjoy yourselves. And they would sit inside and have a drink, and I would give them some non-vegetarian food. They would say, madam, we feel at home when we come to your house. कोई नहीं हमको कुछ नहीं यहाँ बैठने नहीं देते हैं Nagas को. They think we are all underground. There is a trust deficit in our political system. I'm telling you that. And until you build trust, nothing can happen. I'm not afraid to go anywhere. You send me today to Arunachal, I will go. I've been to every, from Andaman, Nicobar to Lakshadweep, to every part of the country. On the Pakistan border, on the Kashmir border, I've been everywhere. And I look upon everybody as my Indian colleagues. They are citizens like me. Why should I doubt them? Why will they kill me? What am I doing to them? The mindset has to change. The Dalits in my house, there are some MLAs in Bangalore. They come every time, any of them, they come individually, one or two. I call them to the dining table, say, khalo, jo bhi hai, hamare saath khalo. They love non-vegetarian food, which we cook. They come, they sit, and they say, madam, ye ek ghar hai. हमें सीधे आपके टेबल पे बुला के आप खाना खिलाते हैं, हम दलित हैं. पर आप कभी नहीं हमको, don't make me feel that I'm different. Whatever is on the table, I say, help yourselves. Come and sit with us. See, that is what matters. They don't want money from you. They want human dignity. They want their identity to be recognized. Dalit kya statistics hum lete hain bhai? Where is your human face in dealing with people? And we say government of the people, by the people, for the people. It's government of the rich, by the crooks for themselves. गरीब के लिए कोई नहीं सोचते, मैं सच्ची कहती हूँ. You'll read. I want you all sometime to have a discussion on my book about my fight for giving status to the Siddhis who are of African origin in my constituency. 25 years I fought. And in 2004, the president's order came, recognizing them as tribals. I shed tears in Parliament when I spoke. I said, this is the culmination of a 25-year battle in Parliament. And do you know, the order said, Siddhis of North Canada. There are Siddhis in Maharashtra, there are Siddhis in Gujarat, there are Siddhis in Goa, there are Siddhis in other districts of Karnataka like Belgaum, Dharwad and so on. But the order said Siddhis of North Canada, which is my district. Because I took the statistics, I went to the village, I got their figures, I got their social thing, I took photographs, I prepared reports, right up for 25 years. And I got the president's order, they got status of tribals, they get reservations, they get jobs, they get everything. Scholarships, they are appearing for the IAS. And they used to call them Kadu Jana, that is forest people with no rights. They were like bonded labor. So when you take up a cause and fight, every one of their homes has a picture of me. They said, "Humko koi Bhagwan nahi hai, aap hi hamari devi hai." They put flowers every day on my picture in their little homes. They are in the railways. They have got reservations in government services. And one of the reasons I lost my election, was because of this. They said, "Ye to aake yahan sab ulta kari." They were bonded labor in the gardens, Areca gardens of the rich Brahmins. No salary. Unko raat ko itna rice haath mein dalte the. Each one got a handful of rice. And they had to go home and cook that rice and put some forest herbs or whatever and eat. They didn't pay them wages. Once a year, they would get a set of clothes. That's all. Now they stopped going to the gardens. Their children are going to schools. They have got scholarships. Their boys are in college. So they said, ये तो औरत यहाँ के सब उल्टा करेंगे. They have no labor. They don't work in their gardens anymore without salary. They go to Narega. So you see, social change has to come from the grassroots. You'll pay the price. Other communities said, अरे उनको दे दिया, हमको नहीं दिया. ST status. BJP started the propaganda. वो सिद्धि Christians को ही दिया, दूसरों को नहीं दिया. All siddhis were given. There are Hindus, Muslims, and Christian siddhis. The order never said Christians; it said siddhis of North Canara. But the propaganda they started was, उन्होंने सिद्धि Christians को किया है, तुम लोगों ने, just to create divisions. So you see, that's the challenge. It's been wonderful interacting with you. I'll be coming for some other. I just wanted to open up. I wanted you to think, and I want you not to listen, but to find solutions. Start thinking. If you were there, what would you do? If you were in Kashmir, how would you react? They are also youth like you. They are studying also in Karnataka and everywhere. If you were a tribal, what would be your reaction to your land being taken away by the big multinationals and throwing you out? If you were a Dalit, what would be your reaction? Think of situations where you could be the exploited or the downtrodden. Then you will have answers, what you would do. Then you become a leader. Like Bertrand Russell said, don't become cogs in the machine. You have to be leaders. Okay? Where I left this. Okay.
Thank you so much, madam. It is quite rare for us to run the session without break for entire 3 hours. And this has happened only because of your words of wisdom and experience. On behalf of MIT School of Government, I express my sincere thanks to you for your time, and we are really humbled to acknowledge that at this age, your stamina is phenomenal. If I have to summarize your session, I would say that what Gandhiji has said, that a word for an eye would leave the entire world blind. That's what you have said through different examples and different occasions. Your definition of freedom is also inspiring for all of us, that freedom from poverty, freedom from hunger, freedom from discrimination is a real freedom. Freedom with hunger, poverty, and discrimination is no freedom. And I hope that all our students will strive in their life to ensure that the entire India becomes free from hunger, starvation, and discrimination. I invite one of our students, Vaishnavi, for a formal vote of thanks.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, ma'am. Ma'am, it was a pleasure. Rather, we are fortunate to get acknowledged by you. Ma'am, as you have rightly said, no one ideology can define our India and nationalism. Ma'am, we assure you to contribute in bringing the change, rather be a change. I would like to take this opportunity to place on record our hearty thanks to Honorable Mrs. Margaret Alva for her perfect logistic support and guidance she has extended to all of us. Thank you, ma'am.
Madam, as a small token of love and affection, I request our Associate Director, Dr. Hridas Madam, to felicitate you.